Hey guys, tonight we're wandering medieval Normandy under a moon so bright it could pass for a street lamp. Picture this: cobblestones glinting like fish scales, your boots crunching gravel that hasn't known a tourist's footprint since the 11th century. Now, full disclosure, you'll probably spill your camelback tea laughing at how badly you'd bungle this pilgrimage. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Slide into the comments with where you're watching from and what time it is there. I want to know who's brave enough to join me past midnight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk beneath moonlit Norman skies, your pack heavy with ink and doubt. The road hums with secrets, whispers of olden kings rustling in the wind. Your heels ache through leather worn thinner than a Byzantine emperor's patience. Fun fact: those pebbles underfoot, part of the Via Tironensis, a pilgrim highway carved by feet desperate for redemption since Charlemagne's day. Not that it helps your blisters. A farmhouse looms ahead, its thatched roof sagging like a tired eyelid. Inside, a hearth coughs smoke through a chimney built crooked by some long-dead optimist. You knock. The farmer's wife hands you rye bread harder than Viking small talk, and a warning about starving scholars who vanished near Faycamp Abbey. Her wink suggests she's joking. Mostly, moonlight bleaches the landscape into a chessboard of shadow and silver. You pass a roadside shrine, its Madonna eroded into something shapeless and sad. Pilgrims left tokens here once: wax flowers, tin hearts, locks of hair from stillborn babies. Historians still argue whether these offerings were prayers or payments to older gods in saintly drag. Your quill scratches a vellum journal as you walk. Ink freezes mid-dot. November nights here bite sharper than a bishop's judgment. Bet you didn't know medieval scribes used eel skins as band-aids. True story. A ripped page meant slicing up a slimy friend and calling it medicine. You're suddenly grateful for that CVS first aid kit in your pack. The wind carries a tune, a drunkard's rendition of Palestinalide drifting from a tavern's shattered windows. Inside, a minstrel fumbles his lute strings. He mistakes you for a ghost or a debtor. Either way, he offers watered ale and a rumor, a Saxon warlord's treasure buried beneath Bayeux Cathedral. You decline both. The ale smells like regret, and that cathedral's been picked cleaner than a heretic's bones. Dawns a rumor on the horizon when you reach the coast. Salt air slicks your face, the channel's black waves hissing like 100 angry scribes. Somewhere out there, William the Conqueror's fleet sank 1,000 ships forging this very stretch. You count 17 seagulls circling a fishing skiff. 17, not 18. Never 18, because superstition clings to these shores like barnacles. Your thumb traces a map's frayed edge. That X you inked last week now feels childish, a boy king's daydream. The abbey you seek, a smudge of charcoal and hope, Let's be real. You're one wrong turn away from becoming another cautionary tavern tale. But then, a flicker, torchlight winking through pines like a conspirator's signal. The forest swallows you whole. Branches claw your hood, roots snicker at your stumbles. Ever notice how trees mock in Latin when you're lost? Just me. Anyway, the torch glows steadier now, its bearer hidden. Your pulse thrums faster than a troubadour's worst love ballad. A clearing, a well, a figure cloaked in wool the color of sour milk. They extend a ladle water sloshes opaque and questioning. Fact, Norman well witches were really just bored housewives peddling herbal laxatives. Quirky tidbit, their magic involved whispering recipes for dandelion soup. Still, you drink. The liquid tastes like iron and poor choices. When you blink, they're gone. So's the well. Your journal's margins now sport a sketch you don't recall making a stag with constellations tangled in its antlers. Historians still argue whether pilgrims navigated by stars or just followed the reek of unwashed travelers. You pocket the page. Stars feel kinder. The road curves, a pale scar cutting through wheat fields asleep under frost. Your breath fogs the air in quick, guilty puffs. That farmhouse bread sits in your gut like a cairn stone. Ahead, a bridge groans under the weight of its own history. Cross it, and the abbeys and hours trudge. Turn back, and your pride dies faster than Latin. You step onto moss-slick planks. The river below churns with moonlight and what might be eels. Halfway across, the wood creaks a warning or a welcome. Doesn't matter. Your footfalls echo like a heartbeat. A fish breaks the surface. Its scales flash silver. For a breath, you imagine it's the conqueror's crown, tossed into the depths by some rebellious tide. Then the moment slips under ripples, fading into the dark. The far bank welcomes you with mud and crooked fence posts. Dawn's closer now, a gray smear above the tree line. Somewhere a bell tolls, not a church bell. Something rougher, a cow's trough hammered by a farmer's rusty spade. It rings 3 times, or 4. The abbey's silhouette finally cracks the horizon, its spires crooked as a monk's teeth. You freeze. Something warm trickles down your wrist, the ladle's water, seeping through your sleeve. Except it's thicker now. Stickier. You lift your arm slow, like unrolling a cursed scroll. The liquid gleams black in the moonlight, or maybe red. It's hard to tell when your hands won't stop shaking. The wind shifts, carries the scent of wet stone and extinguished candles. Your journal slips from numb fingers, pages flapping like a crippled gull. It lands open to your last entry, daybreak at the abbey gates. Finally, the ink swims, letters blurring into a stain that wasn't there before. A single word emerges, bold and jagged. Linger. Your torch gutters out. The crossroads yawns before you, 3 paths swallowed by darkness. Moonlight pools around a weathered stone marker, etched with symbols. Crusader roots once pulsed through this dust. Every Norman knight from William the Bastard to Lionheart marched here. Your fingertips brush a chiseled fleur-de-lis, still sharp after 6 centuries. The air tastes of burnt rosemary. He steps from the shadows, so quietly you mistake him for night itself. A cloak, the color of dried blood, hood swallowing his face. No greeting, just a skeletal hand pointing north. Historians still argue whether these guides were hired protectors or opportunistic thieves. Either way, the coins jangling in your belt feel heavier. You follow, because what choice do corpses have but to trail the crow? His boots whisper through tall grass, yours crunch every stick. By dawn, the path becomes a gauntlet of decaying shrines. Each niche holds crumbling idols, primitive Madonnas with pupil-less eyes, splintered saints cradling their own severed hands. One alcove brims with rusted nails, thousands bent at perfect right angles. Scholars found similar hoards under Parisian cobblestones. Medieval believers thought crooked metal confused demons. Let's hope they were right. The guide halts where a shattered column blocks the road. His sleeve ripples as he gestures westward, but you swore the compass pointed north. A joke, a test. His silence curdles the air. You pat the dagger at your hip for comfort, and immediately regret it. Blades attract worse things than bandits out here. 3 crows burst from the underbrush, one trailing a ribbon of rotting lace. The guide doesn't flinch. His hood tilts upward, as if reading cloud script. The morning mist smells wrong charcoal and spoiled milk. Your canteen's nearly empty, but thirst feels safer than drinking whatever brews in those fog tendrils. The shrines grow stranger. A moss-eaten statue of a two-faced woman straddles the path, one visage weeping, the other mid-laugh. At her feet lies a clay bowl crusted with ancient offertory wax. You recall a museum placard. Pilgrims left coins here to appease the threshold guardians. Smart play, until you remember Normandy's 12th century inflation made copper cheaper than spit. By midday, the guide vanishes. No farewell, just emptiness where his silhouette should be. A single crow perches on a nearby rock, preening ink-black feathers. You toss it a crust of stale bread. It cocks its head, then explodes into flight, wingtips grazing your earlobe. Maybe that's how they say you're welcome in Crow. The remaining shrines huddle closer, their alcoves stuffed with yellowed scroll fragments. Most disintegrate at a touch. Paper moths flutter from your fingers. One scrap survives, the silent walk with crowns of ash. Cheery, you pocket it anyway. Future historians love cryptic trash. Hunger gnaws. Your last apple went mushy days ago, but the roadside mulberries glisten unnaturally purple. 3 shrines back, someone carved bore the sweetness into an oak plank. Too late, your tongue's already stained violet. Tastes like childhood summers and impending regret. Sunset stains the horizon. You count 37 shrines since morning, 37 chances to turn back. The path narrows, stones slick with lichen that glows faintly green. Byzantines used similar bioluminescent moss in their secret tunnels, assuming you trust Procopius' secret history and its tales of empresses poison bathing in donkey milk. A final shrine looms, no saint here, just an empty stone chair. Moss forms a crown atop its backrest. Your legs buckle into the seat before you can protest. The chill seeps through your trousers, a cold older than castles, older than crosses. Wind moans through the chair's cracks, shaping half-heard words. Stay, sleep, obey. You're sprinting before the last syllable fades, pack slamming against your spine, throat raw. The guide reappears ahead, a shadow stretched thin by twilight. He points to a distant hill where bonfire sparks swirl like drunken fireflies. Your knees shake. His finger stays extended, an accusation or invitation. Either way, the crows are laughing now. The bonfire hill burns itself into memory, a smear of orange swallowed by dunes. Sand hisses beneath your boots, each step erased by the next gale. By nightfall, the desert reveals its true face, waves of cresting gold, restless as a sleeping giant turning. Your canteen sloshes its hollow song. Camel caravans once hauled amber and ostrich feathers through these wastes, riches crumbling to dust in London museums now. First rule of desert nights: don't trust the horizon. What looks like a palm grove shimmers and dips, a thirsty hallucination. Or is it? Medieval sand diviners swore three-headed scarabs led them to hidden wells. You squint at beetle trails. They spell nothing useful in ancient dung script. Dawn bleeds crimson. Sands shift underfoot, not drifting, but inhaling. A low moan vibrates your molars. Scholars still argue whether the singing dunes stem from wind friction or lingering spirits. Your vote: both. The sound mimics a human groan stretched thin, a widow's lamentation slowed to desert time. Your shadow grows fangs. Heat devils dance ahead, twisting into spires and archways. A city rises from the haze, domes glittering like crushed quartz. You blink. Now it's rubble. Blink again, towering gates, their bronze hinges shrieking. The visions pulse with each dehydrated throb of your pulse. Snap decisions. Drink now, or hoard sips for worse thirst. A vulture circles, black checkmark, in an uncaring sky. The bird knows your odds. You mutter a joke about bad Yelp reviews for pilgrim routes. Laughter cracks your lips. By noon, the dunes conspire. Slopes steepen without warning. You skid downhill, knees barking. Sand infiltrates everything: boot seams, flask caps, the sad remains of a honey cake. Bedouin traders cured dysentery with powdered mummy, but you'd rather risk stomach cramps than swallow centuries-old pharaoh dust. You find the skeleton at a false oasis. Its ribs cradle a rotted satchel inside, a ledger of debts, and a love letter addressed to my Nile rose. Historians still argue whether the body belonged to lost explorer Henry Dupre or a luckless fraud. The script's too water-stained to tell. Pocket the copper ring hidden in the spine. Tempting, But dead men's jewelry always fits too tight. Wind sculpts ephemeral tombs around you, faceless statues that collapse at sunset. Shadows bleed indigo. Your canteen runs dry, bladder sour, with restraint. That mirage city flickers again, closer now, its alleys lined with skeletal merchants hawking phantom water. One vision feature persists, a sandstone archway carved with 6 pointed stars. Genoese merchants marked trade routes that way. But what's 6 pointed about a desert with no exits? Nightfall brings cold sharp enough to slice time. Stars crowd the sky, swarming like bees drunk on twilight. You count 12 constellations shaped nothing like home. The north stars gone AWOL. Instead, a smudge of light pulses where the guide once pointed. Polaris's delinquent cousin, maybe. You trip over the well at midnight. Stone rim licks your shins, a perfect circle hidden until you're knee-deep in its gullet. The bucket chain rattles with your tug, distant splashing echoes. Hope sparks until the rope comes up severed, end frayed. Someone cut this recently. From below, dawn finds you chewing bitter juniper bark, spitting out fibers and desperation. Your map disintegrates in sweaty hands, ink pooling into Rorschach blots. Might as well consult a magic 8-ball. A compass still dangles from your neck, its needle spins like a dervish. You bury it rather than watch the existential crisis. Footprints appear where none should be. Yours. Too large, the guide's. No, he floated more than walked. These treads sink deep, a heavy stride, left leg dragging. Attila's ghost needing a pedicure. Unlikely. The city returns at zenith, no mirage this time. Sand cascades off weathered walls, revealing a gargoyle sneer. Its tongue protrudes, a rain spout for storms that never come. You press a palm to sun-blistered stone. Fact: Carthaginian architects mixed horsehair into mortar. This feels hairier. Inside, the streets whisper. Not with wind, with voices. Muffled haggling, a child's giggle, the saw snap of a loom. Air smells of cardamom and animal fat. Your boot kicks a pottery shard, its glaze still wet. Historians still argue whether Leyden jars inspired these desert hallucinations. You're just arguing with the figment, selling figs ahead, his teeth too white, palms too many. Sunset stains the sky migraine purple. You collapse against a sundial, buried to its cheeks. The gnome's shadow points straight down, same as your morale. Vultures perch on a crumbling minaret, debating the menu. Sleep claws at you, relentless. The dream comes hot and quick. A vault door grinding open, moonlight splashing on gold masks. A voice slithers through the cracks. Bring the ring, bring the bones, bring the you-wake gagging on sand. The city's gone. In its place, a single scrap of silk snagged on a thorn bush. The fabric's pattern matches your mother's curtains, the ones that burned when lightning struck the rectory. Coincidence? Probably. Omen? Definitely. The dunes sigh, burying the evidence. You kneel, silk scrap fraying between calloused fingers. Same cabbage roses as mother's drapes, before the fire claimed them. The desert inhales, burying the fabric's edge. When you stand, the horizon warps, a liquid shimmer where no water should be. 3 palm trees materialize, crisp fronds rattling in non-existent wind. Your throat tightens. Textbook mirage. Except the jackals think it's real. 4 lean shapes slink westward, ribs poking through tawny fur, ears pricked toward the same shimmer. Predators know thirst better than scholars. You trail them. The oasis appears in increments. First, the smell, wet clay and green rot. Then sound, flies buzzing lazy orbits. Finally, sight, a murky pool edged with yellow reeds. Historians still argue whether the Garamantes tribe dug these wells or found them. Their tunnels snake below the Sahara, veins feeding ghost cities. You kneel, water reflects a stranger's sunken eyes. A jackal yips not hunger, but alarm. The pack retreats, tails clamped low. Wise choice. Bubbles erupt from the pool's center, a guttural belch, followed by the stench of rancid eggs. Fact. Roman texts warned of desert springs cursed by Pluto's breath. You're nose deep in why sulfur blisters your nostrils. But thirst overrides survival. You unknot your scarf, filter through sand and cloth. The first sip tastes like licking a battery. The second burns less. By the third, you're guzzling until teeth click the canteen's rim. A frog floats belly up inside. Hilarious priorities. You'll panic about parasites later. Dusk paints the water blood orange. The jackals return, 7 now, their eyes catching the dying light. They pace just beyond fire's reach. Your pitiful flame eats dried tamarisk twigs. It coughs more smoke than heat. One beast creeps closer, mangy coat patchy as a moth-eaten rug. You hurl a clay shard. It dodges, too nimble for something half-starved. Sleep comes in restless snatches. Dreams twist into fever tailies. The frog croaking Latin hymns, the pool devouring your boots. You wake to cold metal against your neck, a Bedouin dagger's curve glinting in moonlight. Its owner grunts. Up, he's no bandit. Faded UNHCR vest, Israeli canteen, toe-less sneakers. You've crashed someone's squatter paradise. His camp hides behind a rock spire, tarps strung between pickaxes, driven into stone. A dozen plastic bottles dangle from ropes, collecting condensation. Clever, illegal, but clever. Tourists die loud. He growls, lisping through a split lip. Military patrols hear screams, come knocking. He gestures to your canteen. Fouled water needs mint. Here, he tosses a withered sprig. It tastes like chewing a cemetery's worth of toothpicks, but your gut stops churning. Dawn exposes the oasis, secret, bones. Camel skulls bleach in salt flats. Rusted Jeep parts. A weathered no trespassing sign in French. Your host, who insists on Leo despite 0 lion-like traits, explains through mouthfuls of canned tuna. Government plugged the aquifer in 9. Wells turned toxic by noon. He nods to the pool. Good till sunrise, then philosopher's reflux. You eye the bubbles surfacing again. So the Garamantes would have gagged. He spits tuna juice. Their engineers mapped aquifers like subway lines. Roman chronicles griped about desert rats, outlasting siege armies. A smirk. My ancestors, probably. Debate point. Scholars still argue whether the Garamantes fell to Roman conquest or their own drains gone dry. Leo's take, pork no lows dues. His laugh echoes off the jeep carcass. The jackals howl closer now. Leo tenses. Cloudless night means they're bored or hungry. He vanishes into his tarp city, emerging with a goatskin bag. Here, music, a distraction. Better. He unzips it, revealing a brass horn crusted with verdigris. War-trumpet. 3rd century. Dug it up near Gaut. He blows. The sound could wake Sobek, Egyptian crocodile god of chaos. The jackals bolt. Museum-worthy, you cough, ears ringing. Museum-worthy paycheck. He pats the horn. Middleman's coming next waning moon. Until then, he nods at your canteen. Need mint? Ask. Need protection? He brandishes the trumpet. Vacation, Bible school trained me well. You spend the day mapping algae patterns, clues to safe drinking pockets. By nightfall, you've plotted a zigzag path to cleaner puddles. Leo watches, amused. You're the type who'd lick a clean toilet in Chernobyl. The jackals return at moon high. This time, they bring friends. 10 pairs of eyes gleam beyond your fire. Leo's trumpet lies dented from an incident involving scorpions. Plan B. Throw expired energy bars into the dark. The pack descends, snarling over synthetic chocolate. One beast grabs the whole stash, drags it into shadows. Leo mutters, capitalism wins again. You ask why he stays. He stares at the contaminated spring. 2 years back, a Dutch cyclist swore she saw gold tablets underwater. Dementia. Maybe. But he shrugs. If the aquifer ever gets flushed, sleep refuses you. The pool gurgles taunts. At some point, you hear scraping metal on stone, Leo's pickaxe dancing across bedrock. You pretend not to notice his midnight excavations. Morning brings government helicopters, distant thumps in the azure. Leo packs frantically. Go. To east, Abalasi caravanserais 2 days. He kicks sand over his fire pit. If caught, you're a lepidopterist. Studied monarch migration. Why butterflies? Everyone pities butterfly nerds. He lobs a water bottle at your chest. Don't drink past noon. The jackals watch you leave, too engrossed in licking energy bar foil to care. 3 miles out, you spot the first patrol truck. Its antennae quiver like a mechanical insect. You whisper, monarchs, just monarchs, and step into the heat haze. Leo's stolen canteen sloshing betrayal. The truck's dust trail fades, your stolen canteen, now a guilty weight. You march until dusk stains the dunes violet, boots crunching over fossilized snail shells. Stars prick the sky with alarming clarity. No city glow to blunt their edges. Bedouins once navigated these sands by starlight alone, mapping trade routes through Scorpius' tail. You're no astronomer, but even you notice Orion's dagger looks wrong. Its central star pulses crimson, a pinprick wound in the cosmos. Leo's voice lingers. 3 nights east, follow the drunk hunter. You squint. There Orion's belt tilts, like a soused archer stumbling mid-stride. The constellations, usually precise geometry sags, Betelgeuse dripping ruby, light, onto barren plateaus. Historians still argue whether medieval star charts depicted actual supernovae or just monkish wine stains. Tonight, you'll vote for drunken monks. Your map crackles as you unfold it, papyrus flaking like sunburned skin. Pressed leaves margin the edges, oleander, toxic, but pretty. A joke from your botany phase. You align the parchment with the sky constellations bleeding through like watermark ghosts. The match isn't perfect. Sagittarius bleeds into lupus, an astral collision that give Neil deGrasse Tyson hives. A rock stabs your kneecap. You almost miss the carvings. Sand-scoured symbols bracelet, a basalt slab, concentric circles, arrow clusters, a crude scorpion. Your thumb fits the central groove, worn smooth by countless touches. Fringe theorists claim Saharan petroglyphs, encoded stellar calendars. Academia scoffs. But this marker's arrows point straight at Orion's skewed dagger. Midnight wind carries voices, or maybe tinnitus from Leo's trumpet. You trace the carvings until your nail splits. Sleep deprivation, thirst madness. Then it clicks. The symbols align with Ptolemy's forgotten star catalog. His Almagest mapped over 1,000 stars, though he miscounted the Pleiades as 7 instead of 9. Classic overachiever error. You pivot the map. Suddenly, the star patterns snap into gruesome sense. Orion's dagger becomes a jagged path, each star marking a day's march. Betelgeuse, tomorrow's campsite. Bellatrix, a ravine to ford. The final marker, a cluster unnamed on modern charts, maybe a long dead star or a scribe's inkblot. Dawn ambushes you mid-calculation. Heat blurs the horizon, washing out all but the brightest stars. You pocket the map, now missing a corner chewed by wind. A beetle scuttles over your boot, its iridescent shell matching Andromeda's hue, nature's inside joke. For 3 days, you walk this star-fallen path, each step synced with celestial drift. Night 3 brings the promised ravine. Moonlight reveals a crack in the earth, walls glittering with embedded quartz. Your rope barely spans the gap. As you rappel down, the stars compress, a tunnel of pinpoint lights. The air smells of static and burnt time. Base of the ravine, a slab etched with the same dagger symbol. East wall shimmers, unnatural sheen. You brush away dust, revealing a mosaic of turquoise and obsidian. The scene, a pharaoh offering a star-shaped relic to Sobek. Historians still debate if crocodile cults used astral rituals. But here's Sobek cradling Orion like a favorite chew toy. A click echoes, your canteen rolls into a crevice. You grope after it, fingers hitting metal. Cold, angular. The thing comes free with a gritty rasp, a bronze astrolabe crusted in sand. Its reedy looks like a spider web frozen mid-shiver. You blow off grime, constellation names etched in Coptic script. The pointer aligns with Orion's dagger, no, with the empty space beneath it. Fantastic, you mutter. Now I need an archaeologist or a good pawnshop. You pocket the gadget. The climb out steals your last stamina. Midnight finds you slumped against a boulder, astrolabe gleaming in firelight. Its moving parts creak, aligning with the stars' slow pivot. When Sirius crests the dunes, the device whirs spinning into a feverish dance. A hidden compartment pops open. Inside, a papyrus scrap. Unroll it to find moon phases inked in luminescent gold, an exact match for next month's sky. Underneath, a scribbled note. The vault drinks when the bull's eye weeps. More poetry than directions. You groan. This is why you dropped astronomy for pottery class. But the map's edge reveals a clue: 9 tiny stars drawn near Ursa Major. The Pleiades again. You count visible sisters, only 6 tonight. Dust clouds. Or did Ptolemy's ghost miscount on purpose? Sleep claims you mid-rant, dreams full of croaking frogs lecturing on redshift. Morning brings a problem. The astrolabe's broken. Its rings jammed mid-spin, a bronze pretzel. You're stranded without celestial GPS until a shadow glides overhead. A vulture. No, sleeker. A drone. It banks westward, solar panels glinting. Modern tech meets ancient sky code. You give chase, cursing as sand fills your boots. The drone lands miles ahead, nose buried in a salt flat. Its cargo, a microchip taped to a dates box. You pocket the chip, absurdly, then notice the landing site. Sand parts reveal a stone door carved with Sobek's smirk. The astrolabe's missing pointer tip protrudes from his eye. You press it. Stone grinds, a sound felt in your molars. The door slides open, stale air, sighing upward. Steps descend into blackness. Starlight penetrates just enough to reveal more steps. Of course, your flashlight dies immediately, modernity's betrayal. But the astrolabe glows faintly, moon phases charted on the papyrus, now pulsating soft gold. You descend, guided by a 2,000-year-old glow stick. The walls narrow, your pack scrapes both sides. Then space opens. The astrolabe's light flares, revealing a circular chamber. Constellations mosaic the dome, each star a crystal embedded in basalt. At the center, a pedestal holding an obsidian box. A thumbnail latch, surprisingly modern. Inside rests a scroll case, tarnished green. You unseal it, reeking of myrrh. The document inside, star charts overlapping with subway-style maps. Garamonte's aquifers, labeled as celestial conduits. A underground Nile, the final lines embossed. Whosoever drinks the stars shall drown in their light. You're debating pocketing this crazy when the walls shudder. Crystals dim. Distant booms echo helicopters. Or the aquifer collapsing. The scroll goes into your bag, Rebel's autopilot. You sprint upstairs, as the door groans shut, sand cascading into the chamber. Twilight again. The drone's gone, salt flat, scoured clean by wind, but your canteen smells of mint, impossible, since Leo's stash is miles back. You sip anyway. The liquid tastes electric, like licking a battery wrapped in starlight. Above, Orion's dagger straightens its tip, piercing the horizon. You march toward it, new blisters forming over old. Somewhere behind, a jackal howls, or maybe a drone's motors whine. The stars don't care. They pivot patient, as they have for thieves and priests and lost pilgrims. The pillars rise like rotten teeth, each twice your height, and pocked by sandstorms. Their surfaces ripple with half-eroded carvings, Sobek devouring a solar disk, chariots trampling crops shaped like screaming faces. One column leans drunkenly, its shadow tracing a sundial across your path. Lunchtime in the apocalypse. You kneel to adjust your bootlace, the desert's gift of perpetual grit, when your knee sinks into something soft. Not sand. Ash, centuries old, judging by the charcoal, chunks clinging to your pants. Cairo's museum claimed the Garamantes, burned their deceased royals. But this layer stretches for miles. A gust kicks up whirling gray powder into mini tornadoes. Between spins, you spot carvings the wind cleansed minutes ago. A procession of figures carrying alabaster jars. Their faces chiseled away, except one. That smirks unmistakable Sobek again, playing sculptor vandal. The ash tastes of smoked cedar. Traders once shipped Lebanese, would hear via networks, even Rome envied. Modern perfume brands still mimic that resinous bite. You spit, but the flavor lingers, like chewing a church incense supply. Northward, the pillars thicken, forming a shattered colonnade. Your shadow stretches ahead, elongated and wavering, as if leading you by a leash. Stone blocks crunch underfoot. One bears chisel marks in neat grids, a quarry worker's tally, or bets placed on gladiator crocks. A noise freezes you. Not wind, not wildlife. A low drone like monks humming through shattered teeth. It pulses from the largest pillar, a monolith split down the middle. You press your ear against cold stone. Vibrations thrum through your jaw, translating into borderline words. Keeper, burden, feast. Round the back, a discovery. The pillar's hollow, its innards scooped out to form a cramped chapel. Faded murals show a king offering a scarab to a steam vent. Archaeologists found Roman-era geothermal sites nearby. Could this be a map to subterranean baths? The Chinese letter, S2 flake to tell. Lightning without thunder forks the horizon, your cue to seek shelter. The drone noise spikes as you enter the pillar, a primal urge to duck even though the roof's gone. Inside smells of wet dog and myrrh. Your flashlight dies, third time today, but phosphorus fungus paints stripes on the walls. Fitting. Rain arrives, hard, hot drops that hiss against ancient stone. You hunker beside a mural of owl-headed scribes. Their stone, eyes glint. Probably pyrite flecks, or your cortex short-circuiting from sleep debt. One priest holds a scroll titled The Weighing of Waters. Historians still argue whether that's liturgy or an ancient irrigation manual. The storm passes, leaving air thick enough to slice. Outside, newly washed carvings gleam. There, between two pillars, a stone trough protrudes. You expect a ceremonial basin, but it's lined with lead. Radiation symbols. No, older. Hieroglyphs spiral inward. Bathe here to shed the lies of Ra. Hard pass, you mutter. But your canteen's low, and rainwater glistens in the trough's cracks. You skim the surface, lips flinching at the metallic tang. It's like licking a battery wrapped in oregano. Vision blurs. When it clears, the ruins have shifted. Pillars stand whole, their carvings vivid with vermilion and lapis. Torch smoke stings your eyes. A procession approaches, priests in leopard pelts carrying a sedan chair. Its occupant's face melts as you focus, but their necklace matches your scarab's twin. A hand grasps your shoulder. You whirl, fist raised, but it's just a hanging vine. The hallucination evaporates. Dusk now. How long were you zoning? Your watch has stopped. Of course. You pocket pebble shards as souvenirs, then notice the glint. Buried between pillar roots, a bronze bell no bigger than a plum. Its clapper's missing, but etchings remain, stars inside each curve. Fringe blogs rant about celestial chimes used to open portals. You ring it anyway against better judgment. The sounds. Wrong. Too deep for such a tiny thing, a submarine's groan. Ground trembles. Pillars quiver like nervous sentries. From the bell's base, a compartment slides open, hold out space for a single papyrus strip. The ink's fresh. Blood fresh. Turn back, it warns, or meet the army that outran the sun. You snort, warnings haven't worked yet, but the hallucinations intensify. Shadows congeal into spear tips. Wind carries the clank of ghost mail. A scholarly fact floats up. The Garamantes trained elite runners to span their empire in days. Some texts claim they outran Roman patrols barefoot. Your boots feel suddenly flimsy. Then laughter. Human, not hallucination. A figure perches atop a broken pillar barefoot, draped in a cloak of stitched papyrus. Their mask, a painted jackal. Leo's theatrics upgraded. Nice bell, they rasp, genderless, accent nomadic. Last pilgrim who rang it got recruited. Into their ranks, anyway. A glance at the burial ash. There, the stranger kicks down a wineskin. You let it thud, no trust left. The 13th Legion's lost cohort. They leap down lighter than physics allows, melted into the dunes to escape execution. Married locals. Built this place. Their toe prods the trough. Guess how they stayed hydrated? You'd rather not. They lift their mask, revealing a face tattooed with wavy lines. Underground rivers. Ran dry when the stars shifted. A wink. We call that climate change now. Forge on, pilgrim. The vaults close, but the garrison's closer. Wind snatches them away, or maybe they're just freakishly fast. Either way, you're alone with new worst fears. Deep breaths. You press onward, ankles wading through ash-turned mud. The pillars end at a cliff's edge. Below, a valley choked with pale flora. Moonlight reveals the truth, not plants. Bones. Thousands arranged in concentric rings. Femurs as fence posts. Skull orchards. At the center, a ziggurat of sorts, except it's built from weapons. Roman gladii, Garamantian spearheads, Ottoman flintlocks. The message is unsubtle. Your scarab burns a new trick. You drop it, watch it skitter toward the bone field. Follow or flee, the choice evaporates as drums kick in. Distant, rhythmic marching cadence. Heat shimmers distort the air. Figures emerge, not quite solid. Legionnaires in segmented armor fused with tribal scars. Their spears drip liquid starlight. The scarab reaches the ziggurat, glows white-hot, and vanishes. A grinding sound follows. The weapon pile parts, revealing a stairway. It exhales air colder than a pharaoh's mercy. You're sprinting before the ghost soldiers finish phasing in. First step, icy enough to burn. 10th step, your breath mists. By the 100th, you're numb. The stairwell's walls glitter with embedded mica, refracting your flashlight into a prism barrage. Bottom level, a circular chamber. No treasure, no murals, just a well. It's dry, naturally. You chuck a pebble, counting seconds. No splash. Then a wet crunch, like it hit something meaty. A rumble beneath your feet. The well overflows, but not with water. Scrolls. Thousands spewing forth parchment geyser. You snag one midair. Unfurl it, muscle memory now. Military rations ledger. Your brain auto-translates. 16th cohort. 3 barrels barley, 1 amphora garum, 3 casks Falernian wine. Another scroll, duty rosters. Another, a soldier's complaint about camel spiders in his bunk. The fountain stops. Silence, then a whisper from the well's throat. Report. You backpedal, crushing scrolls underfoot. The voice doesn't ask twice. A sludge-covered hand grips the well's rim. Then another. The thing that hauls itself out wears legionary armor caked in tar-like ooze. Its face, a shifting mosaic of every soldier who died thirsty here. Status update. It gurgles, sputtering black ichor. The garrison's holding. It tilts its head, a crack splitting its helm. Thirst quenched. You gesture lamely at the scroll flood. Documents are hydrated. The entity considers this ichor puddling at its feet acceptable. It collapses, dissolving into slurry. The scrolls follow, sucked back into the well with a slurp. One remains clutched in your hand. The ink rearranges as you watch, forming new letters. The 13th answers only to stars. Emerging topside, you find the Bone Valley empty. No spectral military, no ziggurat, just dunes painstakingly rearranged by wind. A beetle taps your heel, its shell iridescent. Not your scarab, its twin. The universe loves redundancies. Dawn bleeds across the horizon. You drink sparingly, still tasting phantom parchment. As you trek east, The scarab materializes in your pocket, warm and smug. You don't acknowledge it. The pillars shrink behind you, their drone, now a faint buzz, like a phone left, vibrating in another room. Only later, miles ahead, do you notice the inscription inside your forearm, burnt there when? It reads, XIXIII, Legion numerals, a parting gift. You hope it's a laundry tag, not a death countdown. The sun climbs, fueled by your stupidity and the land's amusement. Somewhere, Sobek chuckles into his Nile cocktail. The scarab sears your palm through fabric, its heat bypassing laws of thermal transfer. You yank it out, but the gold sticks like a jealous lover. Desert sun doubles down, sky bleached pale as cursed papyrus. A sand dune ahead shivers unnaturally, not wind's work. The beetle pulses in sync, 3 rapid beats, 3 slow. You recall an exhibit. Pharaoh's sealed scarabs in tombs to guide thieves into traps. Smart bugs. Guide this, you mutter, prying it with a canteen strap. The metal doesn't budge, but hieroglyphs flicker across its surface. A loaf-shaped symbol merges with a horned viper. Nice combo. Shadows lengthen without sunset's permission. Air thickens, scented with myrrh and burnt hair. The dunes ahead ripple, a mirage solidifying into low stone walls. An amphitheater, no, a burial pit from the look of those shattered urns. Scarab telepathy wins. You trudge toward the pit, boots crunching blue faience shards. Roman glass, maybe. Or recycled Ptolemy-era trash. The beetle calms, now merely smoldering. Teamwork inside the pit's rim. Niches stuffed with bone bundles. Animal, human, hyena food, either way. One alcove remains intact, its clay seal stamped with surprise, a scarab. Your scarab twitches. Coincidence, theorists weep. You chip the seal. Dust plumes up in a fist shape, dissolving before it can throttle you. Inside, a mummified hand clutching a scroll. The fingers uncurl with a rice paper rustle, passive-aggressive hospitality. The scroll's vellum feels disturbingly supple. Diagram of a temple labeled House of the Swallowing Star. No archaeologists ever admitted finding it. Marginalia shows someone's lunch menu. Dates, beer, and ibis eggs. Priorities. Wind flips the scroll sideways. New text bleeds through modern ink. Toss the beetle now, it warns. It's a tracker. Too late. The scarab vibrates, sending pain signals up your radial nerve. Northward, a cairn collapses, revealing a steel-etched with Sobek's Spade regimen. Mainstream academia knows he demanded honey baths. This adds monthly exfoliation via prisoners' screams. Quackery or lost truths. Debate night at the museum. The scarab launches from your grip, hovering like a defective drone. It darts toward the steel, zips in a figure eight, then rockets groundward. Impact kicks up sand, exposing a marble slab. Clever pest, the slabs carved with concentric circles, each ring a different mineral. Malachite, carnelian, lapis, a child's board game. You step closer, the ground hums. A tile depresses underfoot. classic. Walls erupt from the sand, smooth as obelisks, forming a maze taller than metropolitan lamp posts. The scarab zips inside, daring you to follow. Directions unclear become lab rat. Left turns all look identical, sand-scoured reliefs of gods filing their taxes. Right turns feature epic fails. Ra's solar barge colliding with a hippo-shaped cloud. Ancient blame shifting. Your canteens down to backwash. Hallucinations start polite. A date palm offering coconut water. Then escalate. A stone Anubis selling overpriced sunscreen. SPF 5000, he insists. For the eternally damned, the scarab waits where paths converge, its gold dulled by something oily. Beyond it, a chamber lit by shafted sunlight. Inside, a pedestal holds 2 scarabs. Yours completes the trio. The trifecta of bad decisions. Hieroglyphs above the pedestal urge. Place all 3. Receive the crown of dawn. Scrawled beneath in charcoal. They lie. Hapsa followed by a crude skull. Historians still argue whether Hapsa was a heretic queen or a disgruntled tax collector. Her graffitis everywhere the Banksy of 150 CE. You weigh the scarabs. One's clearly a replica, sloppy hieroglyphs, wrong alloy. Someone failed artifact, forgery 101. The real ones thrum a chord that vibrates your molars. Choice time. Pocket all 3. Trigger the trap. Flee and wonder forever. The replica winks, a trick of the light or sentient kitsch. Footsteps echo, grit grinding in the maze behind you. Heavy, armored. Legionnaire ghosts crave overtime pay. You slam all 3 scarabs onto the pedestal. Hapsa's warning be damned. The chamber darkens. Stones shriek as walls rearrange, sand falls like theater curtains. Revealed, not a crown, a mirror. Your reflection holds the scarabs, but its eyes glow sulfur yellow. Hungry, it asks your voice, lower and soaked in tar. The ghost steps close in. Your double smiles. They're here for the beetles. But you're the delivery system. Glass shatters. The scarabs melt liquid gold, engulfing your hands. Their fusion itches like fire ant couture. When the pain fades, your palms bear new scars. Beetle silhouettes mid-crawl. The mirror's gone. So are the walls. Just dessert again. And Hapsa's graffiti, now scrawled across a nearby boulder, told you check your pack, replica scarab inside. Clever girl. Dawn breaks, the sky streaked like a bruise. Somewhere, Sobek chuckles. Somewhere else, a museum curator's eye twitches. The legionnaire whispers fade, leaving only wind and your newfound blister collection. Eastward waits. Lunchtime in the apocalypse. The campfire pops, its sparks winking out like dying fireflies. You're debating whether jerky counts as dinner when loot notes slither through the dark. A melody too crisp for this dust bowl. The blind bard materializes across the flames, fingers spidering across strings. No eyes, just hollows that flicker orange. His lute's wood glows faintly, shipwreck mahogany maybe, or something less legal. Evening, pilgrim, He croons, voice equal parts honey and grave mold. Care for a ballad, freshly excavated, you gesture to his empty sockets. You, need a hand reading the sheet music. His laugh rasps like a saw on bone. Eyes cloud, but the war drums, those I see clear. He plucks a minor chord, the fire dims. Suddenly, you're smelling wet earth and iron. Norman cavalry thunders behind your eyelids, horses foaming, banners snapping in 11th century winds. Mainstream texts claim William's minstrels sang of conquest. None mention the songs that curdled as they aired. The bard's strings hum faster. A verse unfolds, clashing steel, screams muffled by English mud. His head tilts, tracking phantom infantry only he can witness. Hastings 66, he murmurs. Greatest encore in history, 50,000 solos, no encores for the chorus. You blink. The vision dissolves, but your boots caked in mud that wasn't there before. He leans in, lute creaking. They say I gutted a man once, strung his entrails for a high C. Historians still argue whether the Bards' Guild tuned their instruments with human sinew. No evidence. Lots of missing court musicians. Your fire's down to coals. The bard tosses on a twig. It combusts midair. Party trick, he shrugs. Stole it from a French pyromancer. Orphaned him, technically. Wind shifts. His lute case lies open, a bed of finger bones serving as padding. Quirky, creepy. You mentally bookmark it for future therapy sessions. He strums a lullaby, notes slipping into your veins like anesthesia. Your eyelids droop. The world smears. You jolt awake. Dawn's fingering the horizon. Fire's dead. Bard's gone. Where he sat. A single lute string coiled like a viper. You pocket it. Smart choice. It thrums faintly against your thigh. Allergies acting up, probably. Eastward, the dunes yawn wide. Somewhere, a off-key hum follows, 3 notes down, 1 up. A promise. Or a bill coming due. Your canteen's stale water tastes like victory. Or sleep deprivation. Hard to tell anymore. The dunes stretch ahead, waves frozen mid-crash. Your shadow stretches long and spindly, a puppet dragged by the setting sun. That lute string hums against your thigh, maybe vibrating with distant hoofbeats. Or just your pulse. Hard to say. You're halfway through a stale date when the ground shivers. Not sand settling, rhythmic thuds. Cavalry drills, Norman patrols, favored Andalusian stallions, their hooves bred to outpace Saxon longbows. Mainstream stuff, textbook even. But these sounds, closer, hungrier. You ditch the date, it buries itself like a guilty secret. The horizon line ripples, shapes resolving into silhouettes. 10 riders, 20. Their helmets glint like exposed nails under the blood-orange sky. A joke forms, something about overdue library fines, then dies in your throat. Your boots find a shale outcropping. The rock gnarls into a half-cave. You wedge inside, knees to chest. Breathe through your nose. Ignore the scorpion auditing your personal space. Hooves skid to a halt above you. Saddles creak. A voice barks Norman French, but warped, like their gargling vinegar. Boot prints end here. Fan out. Fun fact: some chronicles claim Norman scouts tied horsehair ropes between mounts, creating mobile tripwires for fugitives. Quirky, yes, documented. Only in marginalia. The scorpion agrees. It flicks its tail dismissively. Leather gloves scritch against rock. A dagger pokes through your hideout's entrance, missing your ankle by a thumb's width. Your canteen chooses now to slip, clattering against shale. Silence. Then laughter, a wet, phlegmy sound. Little rabbit, the voice coos, will smoke you out come nightfall. Or a flask splashes liquid. Alcohol fumes sear your sinuses, make it a celebration. Boots retreat. The scorpion vacates, clearly unimpressed by your crisis management. You count to 93, Marseille merchant's trick for calming nerves, before squirming free. Bad move. The rock face now swims with torchlight. Archers perch on ridges, their crossbows lazily tracing your outline. That vinegar voice leers from horseback. Pilgrims pay tolls here. What's in the sack? Your pack holds 3 facts. 1. Ink vials. 2. Moldy bread. 3. The undeniable truth that you'd make a terrible martyr. You bolt. Hooves erupt like siege engines. Arrows kiss your heels, their feathers, hissing critiques of your life choices. The dunes slope downward, a gamble. Norman horses feared steep grades. Or was that Visigoth mules? Historians still argue whether Harold's army exploited that at Stamford Bridge. Your knees scream. Sand seeps into every crevice, free exfoliation. If you're an optimist, an arrow embeds itself in your hat. New fashion statement. Torchlight wanes behind you, their mounts skittish in the dark. You crash into a dry riverbed, its banks pocked with animal dens. Perfect, until the distant howl. Not wolves, deeper, almost vocal. A dozen voices harmonizing in a minor key. The riders freeze, even their horses quiet. Someone mutters a prayer to Saint Eligius, patron of sorely tested idiots. The howl crests, then cuts off. Vinegar voice shouts retreat. Hooves scatter north panicked. You lie there, heart punching your ribs. That's when you notice. The lute string glows faintly in your pocket. Coincidence? Obviously, the moon bleeds silver over the dunes. You stand, hat still arrow-pierced, and spot markings in the sand. Horse hoofs, but deeper, stranger. As if the riders carried more weight when fleeing. Your laugh comes out jagged. Next time, Mediterranean cruise. The night answers with a creak, like a lute string tightening. The creak resolves into wings. A raven lands 3 paces ahead. Its beak clacks, a judge's gavel. You freeze. Everyone knows Norman riders used crows for scouting. Carolingian manuals confirm it. But this bird's too large. Wrong. Like someone stuffed a vulture into a raven costume. It drops a scroll, wax seal gleaming with that coiled serpent motif. Your mother's voice pipes up. Don't touch cursed mail. Too late. The parchment unfurls itself, ink bleeding into the sand. Words form, turn back, or become another nameless stain. Classic. You've read about these medieval chain letters for the superstitious set. Some codices claim noblewomen trained ravens to steal love notes. Quill and feather FedEx. But this, less romantic entanglement, more existential threat. The raven tilts its head, one glassy eye reflecting your hat's new arrow accessory. It croaks. The sound echoes, a dozen invisible birds repeating the warning. Your lute string vibrates, glow intensifying. Coincidence? Let's go with yes for sanity's sake. Wind snatches the scroll. You lunge, fingertips brushing parchment. Bad idea. The script squirms, letters rearranging. The price of knowledge is written in bones. Oh good. Cryptic upgrade. Above, the raven swirls, a black vortex. Its wing beats sync with your heartbeat. You've heard tales of Norman messenger birds, recognizing traitors by face. Scholars still argue whether they mimicked human features or just pecked everyone equally. The bird dives, you duck, its claws skimming your scalp. Another scroll drops. This one smells of myrrh, luxury intimidation. The message, one word, soon, fantastic. Your voice sounds thinner than Norman patience at a Saxon feast. The raven perches on a nearby rock, preening. Show off. You scan the dunes. No patrols. No howling choruses. Just this avian drama queen. Time to test a theory. You unsheath your ink vial, flick a drop at the bird. It dodges, screeching. The liquid sizzles where it lands. Okay, maybe not just a bird. The raven retaliates, dropping a third scroll. No theatrics this time, just coordinates, latitude and longitude. Wait, longitude, anachronistic much. The numbers pulse, then dissolve. A headache blooms behind your eyes. You pocket the empty scroll. Fine print shimmers. The moon's third tier opens the way. Medieval riddles, yay. The bird takes off, a shadow swallowed by shadows. Dawn's starting to blush the horizon. Bad news. Norman day patrols triple after sunrise. Worse, your canteen's down to farewell sips. That's when you spot it, the raven's feather lodged in shale. Obsidian black, but wait. No, midnight blue with gold veining. Templars supposedly bred those during the Crusades, avian status symbols. Footsteps crunch behind you. You spin, expecting vinegar voice. Just your raven friend, perched on a skeletal bush. Judging, it cocks its head, the universal well. You muster dignity. Tell your boss I'm busy. The raven blinks, slow, deliberate, then explodes into a cloud of ink smoke. The residue forms words midair. No refunds. Class dismissed. You trudge north, feather tucked behind your ear. The lute strings glow fades with the stars. Somewhere a camel belches. The desert, ever the romantic. First light reveals tracks, boots and paws overlapping. Human and not. The coordinates linger in your mind, a itch behind your brow. You pause, pull the vial. The ink's moving, swirling into a tiny serpent. It mouths silent words. You snap the cap shut. Note to self, invest in better storage. The dunes part ahead, a valley dotted with ruins. Last night's scroll mentioned bones. You count ribcages of collapsed towers. Close enough. Heat shimmers warp the air. Or is that a figure, cloaked, holding something glinting? The raven, upgraded to human form. You reach for your dagger, find a date pit instead. Perfect. The figure waves. Friendly, bored, hard to say. The glint resolves into a teaspoon. Utterly ordinary, utterly terrifying. Your stomach growls. Priorities. The raven's final message glows faintly in your pocket, or maybe that's sleep deprivation. You press onward. The spoon wielder vanishes, leaving only a ring in the sand. Inside the ring, a single word etched in Latin, persevera. You kick dust over it. Already on it, pal. The sun climbs. Your shadow shrinks, a timid companion. The lute string hums again. Not a coincidence. Never a coincidence. Your boots crunch on something brittle, not sand now, but crushed oyster shells. Norman builders mixed them into mortar. Historians debate whether it strengthened walls or just smelled like low tide. The silver citadel looms ahead, or what's left of it. 3 arches cling to a cliffside, their stones weeping rust-colored streaks. The tunnel mouth gapes, a throat lined with lichen teeth. Your lute string glows faint blue. Not comforting, more like a neon abandoned hope sign. You step inside. Damp slaps your face, rotten sponge wrapped in iron filings. Classic Norman underground. Chronicles claim their architects modeled tunnels after rabbit warrens to confuse invading Vikings. Didn't help in 1066. Something skitters ahead, too large for rats. Too many legs. You freeze. The sound stops. Coincidence is dead, murdered by this pilgrimage. Walls narrow, stone grazing both shoulders. Carvings emerge under your fingers. Crosses intertwined with serpents. Templar, heretic. Depends which tavern historian you buy ale for. A drip hits your neck cold as a witch's goodwill. The floor slopes downward. Your heel slips on algae, death's favorite welcome mat. 200 years of pigeon shit coat everything. Cheers, Crusaders. A chamber opens, ceiling vaulted like a ribcage. Your breath ghosts upward. Murals flake off walls. A battle scene frozen mid-swing. Norman knights fighting themselves. One figure wears your hat. Nope, not thinking about that. The statue stands center room, a weathered warrior gripping a spear, his face eroded into a permanent scream. You circle it, keeping 3 paces. Smart, or not, stone grinds. The statue pivots, spear tip kissing your jugular. You inhale. Blade nicks skin. Warmth trickles. No sudden moves. You whisper to yourself or the sculpture. Both, probably. Its plinth creaks lopsided. You spot symbols under moss. Moon phases, or a combination lock from hell. 11 crescents, 3rd one chipped. The moon's 3rd tier, that stupid scroll. Your dagger scrapes moss. The chip glints, quartz embedded in stone. You press it. Silence. Then gears roar, a sound like God's own indigestion. The statue jerks backward, revealing a stairwell. Dank air wafts up. Your wind smells like a wet crypt. Down you go. Steps crumble at the edges, time's nibbling fingers. You count 74 before hitting water. Boots sink into sludge. Something floats past, a leather boot still clutching a foot bone. Tourists, you mutter. Wading deeper, the loot now a reluctant flashlight. Shadows writhe. A mosaic surfaces underfoot tesserae depicting horned serpents. Aqueduct workers graffiti. Or someone's bad trip. The ceiling lowers. You crouch spine protesting. Medieval miners were reportedly 5-foot nothings. Must have skipped leg day 2. A glint ahead, your eyes sting. Gold, fool's gold. The answer arrives via smell. Vinegar. Preservation vats. You round a bend, and there they are. 12 barrels, crumbled but intact. Pickled herring. Norman garrisons lived on this swill during sieges. Your stomach gurgles, traitor. A faded label survives. Harold's final batch. 1066. Too soon. Beyond the barrels, a portcullis. Rust eats through iron like termites through piety. You lift it, muscles screaming, and freeze mid-squat. Breath warms your neck. Not yours. The statue's here somehow. Spear leveled at your kidneys. Its base scrapes the ground loud as a death sentence. You duck roll, portcullis slams down. The spear embeds in wood quivering. A lucky break. For once. The statue rips its weapon-free chips flying. You bolt down a side tunnel, turns twist like a hangman's rope. Sudden brightness ahead. Daylit ruins visible through a crack exit. Hope flares, then dies. The gap's narrower than a nun's patience. Backpack gets stuck, you wriggle, swearing inventively. Fabric tears. Freedom. Cool air slaps your face. You're out kneeling on a cliff ledge. The statue watches from darkness, a silent sentry. Its spear gleams, salutes, threatens. Both. Below sprawls a valley bisected by a dried river. Objective located. Also, 7 vultures circling. Standard heroes welcome. You check your neck wound, blood crusted. The spear tip left a perfect crescent. Of course it did. Something clinks in your pack. The vinegar barrel's label torn free during your escape. Flip it over. Faint writing, Ostrid lies. Who's Ostrid? No clue. But the ink swirls, forming new letters. Still here, still watching. The wind picks up, carrying a familiar sound. Distant wing beats. No rest for the cursed. You stand, knees popping like percussion. Time to meet those birds. And whatever they've got queued up next. Sun smothers the valley. A forge hammer pounding your skull. Those vultures wheel lower, avian critics waiting to review your corpse. Dry grass crackles underfoot. Each step stirs up dust that tastes like burnt parchment. You reach the riverbed, its cracked mud forming hexagonal patterns. Geologists call these desiccation cracks, nature's desperation tattoos. Your canteen's down to warm dregs that smell like regret. Swig anyway, the heat warps the air, shimmering like a drunkard's mirage. Shapes emerge, armored columns marching, banners snapping in no wind. Norman or Saxon, doesn't matter. They're all skeletons now. A flag unfurls, stitched with William, the Conqueror's alleged motto. Keep up or die. Mainstream historians argue he never said it, too pithy for an illiterate duke. The hallucination marches on horses dissolving into locust swarms mid-gallop. You stumble, knee hitting a half-buried helm. Inside, a nest of dung beetles rearranging finger bones. Medievals believed beetles carried souls to the afterlife. These guys seem underpaid for the job. Shadows lengthen, but the heat worsens. Your vision blurs. Now the air smells of roasted almonds. Ominous. Almond scent preceded arsenic poisonings in royal courts. You're probably just sweating out last night's rancid jerky. The world tilts. You catch yourself on a boulder, its surface carved with ancient tally marks. Viking, tax collector. Same difference in 900 AD. Fire erupts ahead, a spectral siege engine hurling flames. Two knights wrestle in the inferno. One tears off his opponent's helm. Your face stares back, charred and screaming. Nope, you rasp. Not today, brain. You shut your eyes. Big mistake. Your eyelids become projectors. Now you're charging a castle manned by shadow archers. Their arrows whisper nursery rhymes. A severed head rolls past, winking. It's Harold Godwinson. Again. Historians still argue whether Harold actually died from an arrow to the eye. Your hallucination votes yes. The shaft juts from his socket like a macabre unibrow. You collapse into scrubland, pebbles biting your palms. The visions dim. Coolness brushes your forehead. Blessed shade. No, a vulture's wing. It hisses. You hiss back. Night falls fast. A dropped curtain. Moonlight pools in the cracked earth. You crawl toward a rock outcrop. Shelter. Maybe. Sleep comes like a chloroform rag. You awake to steel kissing your sternum. Moonlit blade, steadier hands than yours. A figure crouches over you, hooded, reeking of sour wine and triumph. Their dagger bears a familiar crest, 3 nested crescents. Sit up slow, they growl genderless voice, all gravel and phlegm, and explain why you're using my campsite. You comply, back scraping rock. The dagger follows, an exclamation point demanding answers. Your throat's too parched for lies. Pilgrimage, you croak. They snort. Plague, war, and now pilgrims. This valley collects curses like a beggar's coat. Their free hand riffles your pack, tossing aside the vinegar label. It flutters like a wounded moth. Ostrich lies faces up. The stranger freezes. Where'd you get this? Silver citadel. Why, you know Ostrich. The dagger withdraws. They yank down their hood. Face like a hatchet, nose broken multiple times. Eyes mismatched. One green, one milk blue. Ostrich. Odds are 50-50. Ostrich's been dead 8 centuries, they say. Murdered by her own sentry statues, or so the ballads claim. You touch your crescent scar. Sentries with spears and grudges. They sheath the dagger. Names, Revna. I've been digging up Ostrich's mistakes longer than you've been breathing. Rivna offers a water skin. You drink liquid silt with a honey aftertaste. Mead diluted with grave dirt. Sleep here, they command. Dawns may be safer, but sleep's a traitor. When it comes, so do the banners, threadbare and fluttering. This time, the armies wear your face. Rivna's snoring echoes off the rocks, a saw through wet timber. You count constellations to stay awake. The North Star winks, it's mocking you. A clink breaks the rhythm. Someone crouches by the embers, hooded, stirring the ashes. Not Rivna. Their cloak's hem glints silver. Embroidery, chainmail. You fake sleep, eyelids slit. Poor pilgrim croons a new voice, velvet over serrated steel. Nightmares nipping at your heels. They extend a wineskin oxblood leather, cap dangling like a severed thumb. The stopper pops. Fermented plums and deception. You sit up slow. Hooray, why, SHHH. A finger taps your lips cold as a grave slab. Call me Tomas. I'm just tidying history scraps. Rivna snores louder. Tomas smirks, teeth too white. They sip first. A performance. See. No poison, but everyone knows medieval assassins built immunity with microdoses. Even now, your tongue tingles. Tomas nods toward your ink-stained hands, journaling your demise. How quaint. Ever read Eadmer's Historia Novorum? Chroniclers always bury the juicy bits. You blink. Canterbury monks did spike their ink with oak galls, preservation plus passive aggression. The freerish small talk continues. Tomas praises your unconventional route as if lost pilgrims have options. The wineskin presses into your palm again. Morbid curiosity wins. It's shockingly good, blackberry tang hiding a chalky undertow. Your fingers go numb. They never mention the real William, Tomas murmurs. How he ate roast swan off his soldiers' shields. Utensils were for cowards, apparently. Stars smear. Tomas' face flickers, youthful, then ancient. Their cloaks' embroidery moves, sigils devouring each other. You try to stand, knees fold. Easy now. Tomas catches you a viper's embrace. Rest dawns a fickle ally. Sleep swallows you whole. Sunrise arrives, a cheese grater on your temples. You groan. Tomas is gone. So's your pack. Rivna's already hunting footprints in the dew. Found your friend's trail. Also this. They toss a scrap of vellum. Your own handwriting, but rearranged. The dunes hide what the heart covets. Cute. Rivna kicks a rock. They also took your dried figs. Brutal. You scan the horizon. Nothing but waves of sand. Then a glint. Maps flutter like trapped ghosts against a cactus. Half-buried rations spill from a split sack. Rivna snorts. Incompetent thief, but the maps are wrong. Rivers rerouted. Mountains misplaced. Someone's redrawn your path in squid ink, leading northeast toward a cliff's jagged maw. Rivna squints. That's Bandiagara's Gulch. Local shepherds vanish there weekly. They pause. Perfect. Let's go. You hesitate. The wineskin lies crumpled nearby. Ants swarm its mouth, corpses floating in syrupy dregs. Historians still argue whether Eleanor of Aquitaine poisoned her way through the Second Crusade. Your throbbing skull votes yes. Rivna taps the doctored map. Trust the liar's path. They always reveal more truths than saints. A hot wind gusts, scattering your stolen figs across the waste. Each one sprouting legs, hallucination or hex. You grab the least jerky snack and follow. Tomas, voice whispers in your pulse. Every betrayal's a lesson wearing fangs. The dunes swallow your footprints, hungry for fresh paradoxes. Wind-blown ash coats your tongue, charcoal, and forgotten prayers. The library's corpse looms ahead, its limestone ribs jutting through collapsed ceilings. Rivna kicks a blackened scroll case. It disintegrates into moths. Cheerful, they mutter. Bet the librarians here charged late fees in fingernails. Shelves lean like drunken scholars. Papyrus fragments cling to them, scabs on rotten wood. You brush a half-burned codex. The title survives on lunar tides and the humors of kings. A 12th century monk's grocery list would be more thrilling. Rivna snorts. Remind me why we're treasure hunting in a book bonfire. Your boot crunches something. A wax tablet, stylus still embedded, the scratched message. Seek the crown that drinks the moon. Same as the vellum scrap. Below it, a crude sketch of a chalice catching moonlight. Cryptic and cliché, Rivna says. My favorite combo. A breeze stirs ash into spectral shapes. One resembles Tomas, smirking face. You punch through it. The motion topples a shelf. Charred scrolls cascade, disintegrating midair. One slaps your forearm intact, the ink's unnervingly fresh. Alexander's scribes smuggled Aristotle's texts in hollow amphory, pissing off 3 empires. Rivna peers over your shoulder. Knew that guy was overrated. Next scroll, you unroll another scrap. It cites a moon-crowned queen who ruled the Sahara in 814 AD. Mainstream scholars swear it's Sasanian propaganda. But the details itch a capital built from salt bricks. Troops riding armored camels. Your journal's margins beg for this. Careful, Rivna says. That's your I found Bigfoot face. Thunder rumbles, except the sky's clear. The noise comes from below. Floor tiles shiver. A trapdoor. You pry it open with the stylus. The wood screams, its iron hinges shaped like scowling owls. Descending stairs taste of wet ink and mildew. Rivna lights a torch. The flame shrivels, then flares green. Walls shimmer with arsenic-based paint. Clever, you cough. Medieval security system. The chamber defies physics, larger than the building above. Rotting lecterns stand sentinel. Each holds a book chained to its stand. One cover winks gold, tempus luni. You blow dust off. Zodiac diagrams swirl each constellation, morphing into a crown. Rivna reads over your shoulder. If it says, drink your spinach, I'm out. A diagram chills you. An Egyptian king's tomb aligned with lunar cycles. Historians still argue whether ancient astronomers predicted eclipses or just had great PR. The page cracks under your touch. Something flutters out, a pressed lotus marked with Coptic symbols. Rivna plucks it. Dead flower bookmark. How tragic. Footsteps echo above, too heavy for rodents. The trapdoor slams shut. Your torch dies. Darkness breathes. Moonlight seeps through a crack in the ceiling, silver beams hitting the tempest loony. The crown diagrams glow, pointing to a crescent-shaped stain on the wall. You press the lotus into the stain. Stone grinds. A niche opens, revealing a clay cup. Its interior swirls with what looks like liquid mercury. Rivna sniffs. If this is a ceremonial latte, I want almond milk. The cup's brim catches the moonlight. Reflected beams paint a map on the floor, dunes and wadis, and a star-shaped oasis. New paths, better ones. You trace them, fingertips buzzing, metal creaks overhead, blades. Boots. Rivna pockets the cup. Move now. Solve the riddle later. As you flee, the library's shadows hiss a final warning. The crown thirsts, but the well lies. The crypt's chill sticks to your ribs like wet parchment. Rivna's stolen cup sears your pack, radiating unnatural warmth through the leather. A sound stops you, scales clinking. Not the musical kind, the butcher's kind. A figure coalesces from the shadows, skeletal fingers clutching a tarnished balance. Its cloak hangs in shreds, revealing ribs like cathedral rafters. The specter doesn't breathe, doesn't blink, but its jaw creaks open. Names are coins here, the living overpay. Rivna inches back. I've got a drachma in my sock. Final offer. The scales tremble. Dust falls from their chains, each particle freezing midair. You know this folklore. Byzantine merchants whispered about hungry scales in Nicomedias, markets, spirits demanding abstract payments. A mainstream fact you'd scribbled months ago. Now it's biting your ankle. The ghost extends a hand, palm up, bone gleaming. Its voice grates like a rusted hinge. One memory, sweet, untouched. Rivna hisses. Don't. My cousin traded a first kiss to a tax collector's ghost. Forgot her own birthday for a year. But the path behind you's gone. Solid stone, ahead a corridor choked with roots. You remember a Roman grave inscription. What I gave, I have. What I kept, I lost. The cup pulses hotter. Pick something dumb, Rivna urges. The time you mistook lamp oil for vinegar, the specter's skull tilts. You chose at 6 years. The well. Ice cracks down your spine. You had forgotten that until now. Childhood summers at Selby Abbey. The forbidden well with its iron-banded bucket, dropping your mother's garnet earring, a splash echoing. Then silence. No, you whisper. Weight determines worth, the ghost croons. Joy is heavy. Historians still argue whether medieval starvation burials were punitive or protective. You're about to conduct field research. The scales tip violently, one side piled with something glistening. The other waits. Rivna grabs your wrist. Remember the lactose-free camel cheese incident. That's comedy gold. Too late. The memory surges, sun-warmed stone beneath your knees, the earrings crimson flash, your mother's laugh before the splash. The ghost inhales, a rattling vacuum. Your skull pulses. The well memory dissolves like sugar in tea. Gone, but the aftertaste lingers, damp moss and guilt. The scales balance. The ghost gestures onward, its fingers brittle reeds. The root-choked corridor sighs open. Rivna marches through, muttering about weird flea market psychopomps. You touch your pocket. The cup's cold now. What you lose? Rivna asks, not looking back. Nothing vital. Lie. Your journal entry on Lombardic irrigation ditches floats up instead, a cognitive placeholder. Quirky tidbit. 14th century scribes believed mice ate forgotten memories. Right now, you'd welcome rodents. The tunnel spits you into a cistern. Water reflects the ghost's face 1,000 times, each reflection mouthing thank you. Rivna hurls a pebble. Ripples distort the specter into 1,000,000 hungry smears. Next time, they say, try haggling. Moonlight bleeds through a crack above your exit. You climb, fingers scraping ancient mortar. The lost memory throbs like a phantom limb. But the cup's weight grounds you. Tonight's trade, just another footnote. Moonlight guides you to a stagnant pool, its surface oily with algae. You bend to drink freeze. The water shows your face, then shifts. Cheekbones sharpen. Eyes narrow to serpent slits. The stranger's lips curl, a smile that cracks at the edges. Rivna peers over your shoulder. Bad time to discover your evil twin. You plunge a fist into the water. The image shatters, but the sneer lingers in ripples. Historians still argue whether medieval broken mirrors in graves trapped souls or freed them. Tonight's experiment settles nothing. Laughter bubbles from the pool low and wet as you wipe slime on your trousers. Keep moving, Rivna grunts. That's not even your worst look. Remember the lice incident. The uphill path crumbles underfoot. Each step churns mud that reeks of burnt hair and salt. Your stolen scarab thrums, a sickly pulse against your thigh. Byzantine nobles once carried beetle amulets to reflect the evil eye. This one seems to be honing it. A rock clatters downhill. The laughter follows, closer now. You spin no one there, just your own ragged breath and the scarab's gleam. Rivna grips their dagger. Scholars think Roman generals used muttering statues to scare enemies. Let's not confirm that. The path spills into a ruined chapel. Your boot crunches glass. Shards glint curved and green. Scattered across the floor, fragments of a 9th century animal-handled mirror. Quirky fact scribbled in your notes. Craftsmen shaped them like owls to confuse night spirits. Didn't work. The scarab burns white hot. You yank it from your pocket, its golden shell now blackened. The pooled water seeps under the chapel door, a creeping stain. It gathers in the mirror shards, each piece reflecting that twisted face. Rivna kicks a fragment. Break the rest. Full cathartic smashing. You freeze. One shard shows your mother's face, then the sneering strangers, then emptiness. The laughter crescendos. A dripping sound begins thick and rhythmic. The scarab's eyes glow. You recall a Frankish priest's warning, reflection's hunger. Their thin places, toss the damn beetle, Rivna urges. You hesitate. The scarab contains 3 drachmas and a lock of a leaner of Aquitaine's hair, according to that tipsy archivist in Rouen. But it's melting now, molten gold, eating through your glove. The pooled water surges, an inky wave. It slams you against the wall. Your head cracks stone. Vision blurs. Reflections swarm, 100 sneering faces, chanting in Occitan. Rivna shouts something about Celtic mirror-warding chants, or maybe breakfast recipes. Hard to tell. You hurl the scarab. It arcs trailing smoke and plunges into the liquid darkness. The faces shriek. The pool recoils, dragging the shrieking reflections down a sudden drain. Silence. Rivna helps you up. Trade you a dry sock for the story later. You limp outside, dawn still hours off. The laughter's gone, but your glove smolders, and the melted scarab's weight clings to your palm. Somewhere downhill, an owl hoots. Historians would call this superstition. You call it Tuesday. The path ahead twists into mist, but the sneer lingers behind your teeth, bitter, familiar, waiting. The mist clings, damp fingers probing your collar. Your palm itches where the scarab fused to skin, a molten tickle. Brambles snag your sleeve. One thorn bites deep, a crescent gash welling black-red. Rivna snorts. Finally, a decent tattoo to scare tavern keepers. Blood beads along the cut, each drop hanging impossibly before falling. 700 years from now, historians will dig up pilgrim badges sold here, tin souvenirs of fake miracles. Yours just writes itself. The thorn glistens, still wedged in your flesh. You pluck it. The wound pulses, a second heartbeat. Check the map, you mutter. Rivna unrolls parchment. The ink runs, streaking landmarks into Rorschach blots. Directions say follow the blood of the land. Charming. A droplet hits the page. Your blood spirals, forming a tiny crescent in the margin. Nightmares mutter feed us through your molars. The path forks. To the left, a rotting footbridge. To the right, a thicket humming with cicadas. You hesitate. A breeze carries the stink of copper and honey. Rivna sniffs. Remember the fake blood rain merchants in Marseille. This is their fault. True story. 12th century grifters dyed well water red with madder root. Claimed it was God's judgment. Sold purification charms for 2 deniers each. The throb in your palm sharpens, urging you right. Cicadas fall silent as you push through brambles. The scarab mark flares, searing bone. You stumble into a clearing. Stakes jut from the earth, each crowned with a moldering sheep skull. Beneath them, shallow pits crusted with ash and rust-colored stains. Historians still argue whether Crusaders here used real blood in oath rituals or just goat wine and theatrics. Rivna pokes a stain, smells like a butcher's floor and bad decisions. Your wound drips freely now, each splash hissing against the soil. Hallucinations bloom. Women in mud-stained shifts, chanting as they pour liquid into trenches. One looks up. You share her face, the sneer from the pool. The vision snaps. You're leaking narrative symbolism, Rivna says. Their grin falters when blood soaks your bootlaces. A cairn looms ahead, its stones sticky with lichen. You press your palm to it. The rock drinks the blood. Thunder rumbles, no clouds above. The ground shudders. Rivna grabs your arm. This feels like a before in a cautionary tale. The cairn crumbles. Beneath it, a lead box green with age. Inside, a brittle scroll and a dagger. The blade's etched with Norse runes, and is that honeycomb. Quirky fact 23. Viking settlers here stored mead in abscessed horse teeth. This dagger's hilt still oozes something amber. The scroll crackles open. Latin script swims qui sanguinem accipit, terram ligat. Whoever takes the blood binds the land, Rivna translates. Their eyes flick to your hand, guessing that ships sailed. The cicadas roar back to life, a sound like rattling bone. Your scarab mark throbs in sync. Shadows coil around the dagger reaching. You grab it. The hilt squelches. Foul honey drips on your wrist. The sneer in your teeth curdles to a grimace. Could have been lice again, Rivna offers. Progress. The ground bucks. Roots erupt, bone pale and grasping. You sprint. The dagger warms its blade, sipping your blood through the grip. Nightmares chorus louder. You're the anchor now, the chain's yours to drag. The mist ahead solidifies into a chapel wall. No door, no windows. Just a crack wide enough to wedge your bleeding hand inside. Rivna exhales. Historians love a good M, a RTY, R Chinese letter, OIL stain. The dagger winks, its edge singing against stone. Somewhere beneath your boots, the land's ancient grief unfurls, one tendril of many, waiting to leash itself to fresh pain. You press onward. The cut on your palm itches. Itch is hope. Itch is alive. The chapel wall's crack gnaws at your knuckles, stone teeth grinding skin. Blood slicks the masonry. Rivna mutters about tetanus and poor life choices. Then, a click. The wall pivots, spitting you into a moonlit courtyard. Your palm leaves a red smear on the hinge. A hunched figure crouches by a dry fountain, gnarled finger carving lines in the dust. His cloak reeks of mildew and crushed sage. Each stroke etches pathways, a sprawling labyrinth shrinking the courtyard's tiles. You glimpse Jerusalem's silhouette at the center. Or maybe it's Rouen. Cartographers back then labeled cities purely for vibes. The old man wheezes, a sound like bellows collapsing. His nail digs a final trench. The labyrinth blooms, chambers within chambers, gates leading nowhere. You recognize the pattern. Medieval mappers drew these to mark pilgrimage routes and hide crypts. The Hereford Cathedral's Mappa Mundi includes 36 helmets and a very sassy unicorn. Rivna leans in. North's that way, or it was before we bled on analog GPS. The cartographer slumps. His hood falls back, revealing milky eyes and a scar where his nose should be. Historians still argue whether such injuries came from Crusader battles or criticizing a lord's wine selection. His hand darts out, grabbing your wrist. The labyrinth's lines glow faintly, snail trails of bioluminescent fungi. Quirky fact 42. 13th century mapmakers in Normandy allegedly used glowworm paste for holy waypoints. Tastes like rancid butter, apparently. He presses your bloodied palm to the labyrinth's edge. The fungi flare, a stuttering pulse racing toward the center. The tiles shudder. Dust motes swirl, forming phantom towers, crumbling as they rise. The man sobs, a wet, broken sound. His sandal erases the entire maze in one sweep. Rivna groans. There goes our 5-star TripAdvisor review. The cartographer fumbles in his robes, withdraws a brass compass, green with patina. Its needle twitches, then points straight down. You blink. He shoves it into your hands, fingers trembling. Early Muslim scholars debated whether magnetic north led to Mecca or just the nearest decent kebab. This thing skips the debate, downs its only truth. Wind howls, tearing at the courtyard's dead ivy. The cartographer collapses, body dissolving into parchment scraps and cobwebs. Your scarab mark burns. The compass needle spins, sputtering like a dying crank. Rivna pokes it. If we dig here, we either find treasure or someone's grandma's septic tank. You kneel. Dirt parts easily, fingernails scraping metal. A hinge emerges, rusted but intact. The compass vibrates, a fly's buzz trapped in brass. Your dagger's honey crust glistens. Perfect lockpick. The trapdoor creaks open, revealing a spiral staircase. Dank air wafts up, flavored with wet slate and forgotten birthdays. The steps sag. You test one. It holds, barely. Rivna peers into the gloom. Remember, if a mushroom offers investment advice, say no. The compass needle tugs, an insistent child leading you deeper. Each turn tightens the spiral. Walls press closer, carved with graffiti. Norse thrall marks, Templar crosses, a crude doodle of a saint pickpocketing the devil. Standard medieval Yelp review. Your boot touches water. The stairwell ends in a flooded chamber, its ceiling strung with rotten nets. Something glints beneath the surface. Coins, daggers. The scarab mark seizes, a white-hot wire around your bones. You wade in. Water soaks your tunic, 1,000 icy fingers. The compass sinks, pulling your hand toward the murk. Rivna stays shore adjacent. I'll supervise. Yell if you meet a very moist ghost. You dive. Darkness swallows you. The compass glows faintly, an underwater will-o'-the-wisp. Your lungs burn, then a ledge. Your fingers brush cold metal. A chest, its lids encrusted with barnacles and human molars. Historians would scribble whole dissertations about this. You flare your nostrils, a terrible idea, and heave it open. The compass slips from your grip, plummets into the chest's void. The needle still points down, down, down into a lightless throat. You're suddenly eager to follow. The water presses tighter than a miser's purse, your kicks stirring silt into black coffee cloud. The chest yawns, a jagged mouth swallowing the compass. You follow. One gulp of air left. Panic claws up your throat, then stops. Glowworms spark below, a constellation in reverse. Their blue-green light webs across stone. 13th century miners supposedly hung jars of these larvae as safety lamps. Yours work free, cheaper than torches. Worse retirement plans. Your skull grazes the ceiling, rippling the water's skin. Air pocket. You gulp mustiness, filtered through centuries of bad guano. Rivna's voice echoes from above, muffled and marine. Found Atlantis, lost Walmart yet. The tunnel slants up. You slither onto a limestone shelf, dripping and shivering, your candles dead, wick too soggy for prayers. But the walls, they breathe. Veins of bioluminescent moss pulse, chartreuse capillaries threading the rock. Historians still argue whether medieval hermits cultivated these for guidance, or just loved tripping on parasite spores. Walls press closer, each turn tighter than the last. The ceiling droops, forcing you crab walk. Your pack snags. You twist free, leaving a patch of wool on a stalagmite. High fashion, Norman Pilgrim edition. Left fork. Right dead ends at a fresco of a six-armed saint juggling severed heads. Typical Tuesday. The moss dims ahead, outshined by a crawling light. You freeze. Fireflies. Too orange. Closer now, a swarm of winged beetles with glowing abdomens. Their buzz harmonizes into a hymn. Dies Iri, Drainfly remix. Rivna materializes, damp and scowling. Took a scenic route. Found a family of albino crayfish writing Yelp reviews. She nods at the beetles. New friends. You step closer. The swarm parts, revealing a stone arch carved into its keystone. A crown swallowing moonlight. Your scarab mark throbs in sync. The beetles alight on your shoulders, their heatless glow warming your soaked tunic. Quirky fact. Benedictine monks once trained lantern beetles to mark safe paths during nocturnal processions. The Pope nixed it. Apparently insects lacked liturgical rigor. The arch leads downward, steps worn smooth by feet or floods. Beetles illuminate each groove. Your boot dislodges a pebble. It clatters eternally. Rivna snorts. If that's the afterlife, it needs better acoustics. A vast chamber opens, its ceiling vaulted like a cathedral's. Pillars sag, slumped giants crusted with luminous lichen. At the center, a pedestal holding a skeletal hand. Its finger bones point northeast. Magnetic, metaphysical. You check the moss, it's regrowing behind you. No backtracking. Clever girl. The hand twitches. Everyone pretends not to notice. Rivna circles the pedestal. Option 1, creepy hijinks. Option 2, pocket the souvenir, risk haunted knuckles. Your scarab mark flares agreement. You lift the hand lighter than kindling. Its index finger snaps off. Classic. A grinding shakes the chamber. The walls ripple, stone liquefying into smoke. New corridors bloom like ink in water. The lichen fades, except one strand coiling toward a crack. Follow me, it winks. Always with the needy flora, the crack widens into a claustrophobe's nightmare, a crevice lined with what feels like wet teeth. You sidle through. The beetles abandon ship. Fair weather bugs. Air changes, hinting on rot and iron. The moss brightens, veinwork converging ahead. Your heel crunches a clay tablet. Squint under the glow. Cuneiform loops. Or someone dropped their lasagna recipe. Translating's a tomorrow problem. The path kinks sharply, spitting you into a circular room. No exits. Walls feature carved niches, each cradling a mummified songbird. Gold-leafed, beaks parted mid-chirp. Glass eyes reflect your confusion. Rivna pokes a bird. It crumbles, ashes forming words on the floor. Sing to proceed. Hard pass, she says. Your throat's still now flavored from the dive. But the scarab mark burns punitive. You hum a tavern ditty about a drunkard and a milkmaid. The birds stir. Ash swirls, reshaping into a spiral staircase, ascending into rock. Rivna groans. Next time, let's steal a lyre. The steps sway, blocks hovering without mortar. Animate architecture. Efficient. Terrifying. You clutch the handrail, it's warm. Up you climb, each tread dissolving after use. No refunds. At the top, a corridor with walls oozing that glowing moss. It thickens overhead, forming a pulsing canopy. Your shadow fades, disappears entirely. Quirky side effect, or fungal prank. The 1426 Codex Beneficium warned travelers about light that eats silhouettes. Got any spare shadows to lose? A draft whispers through, laden with salt and wet leather. Waves. Impossible. You're leagues inland. The smell strengthens. So does the moss light, now seafoam green. The passage ends at a drop-off. Below, an underground estuary. Black water licks a pebble beach. A single skiff waits, its hull crusted with barnacles. No oars. The current drifts toward a distant glimmer, bioluminescent algae swirling like liquid stars. Something splashes. Rivnaz already knee-deep. You're thinking treasure. I'm thinking, do medieval boat warranties cover Kraken attacks? You board. The skiff creaks, a chorus of arthritic complaints. It glides forward. Wet strands brush your arms, moss-dripping stalactites, or suspended jellyfish. Both. The scarab mark cools, a ceasefire. Rivna trails her hand in the water. These tunnels must have smuggled more than pilgrims. Relics, spices, bad poetry. The estuary narrows. Walls close in glowing veins, now so bright they sting. Then a blockage. Fallen boulders sealed with mortar. Scratched into the seal, Crusader graffiti. Baldwin Ivy's sigil. A crudely drawn crown. Your borrowed skeletal hand twitches, finger jabbing the seal. Mortar crumbles. The skiff lurches through into a domed chamber where moonlight cascades through a ceiling fracture. Moss retreats here, outshone by the real thing. The boat grounds itself. You disembark, sand gritting underfoot. Rivna kicks a half-buried jug. It clinks, dousing her boot in red liquid, either wine or a massacre. Sniff test. You face the chamber's far wall. The moss converges there, forming a radiant arrow aimed at a crescent-shaped slot. Your scarab marks twin. The skeletal hand disintegrates, ash sifting through your fingers. Only the broken index remains. It fits the slot. Rivna eyes the wall. Knock first. Could be someone's panic room. Stone grumbles. The wall splits, revealing a tunnel veined with fresh moss. Its glow deepens to emerald. Your footsteps echo ahead, answering. The path slopes upward, air sweetening with time and midnight. Luminescent pollen drifts like misplaced fireflies. You brush a wall, the moss flares, then dims. Timed lighting. Medieval rave. A voice rasps ahead, unplaceable as wind through reeds. You're late. Rivna unsheathes her blade. Fashionably. You round the bend and freeze. The walls fall away. A cavern opens, its floor carpeted in luminous moss, stretching to the horizon. Ribbon-thin streams of it climb the walls, converging into a radiant tree canopy. The vaulted ceiling drips with bioluminescent spores, gentle as summer rain. At the center stands a stone arch, crumbling yet intact. Through it, a sliver of true night sky. The North Star winks, a pinprick of white in the moss-made galaxy. Rivna exhales. Well, no septic tanks. The moss brightens, a path lighting itself to the arch. You step onto the living carpet. It yields slightly springy as bread dough. Halfway across, a shiver. The moss snuffs out section by section, plunging you into blackness. But overhead, the spore rain still glimmers. You raise a hand. Sparks adhere, forming a constellation on your palm. Cassiopeia, or a drunkard's tambourine. The dark ahead thickens, then relents. The arch looms. Through its curve, a cliffside path under authentic moonlight. Normandy's coastline curls below, waves gnawing at the chalk cliffs. Dawns a rumor on the horizon. Rivna studies the drop. We're either heroes or the world's worst shortcut takers. The moss light gutters, its energy spent. The arch's keystone crackles. Your scarab mark cools to faint silver. You cross the threshold, salt wind slapping the dive water from your clothes. Behind, the tunnel seals with a sigh. No trace remains. Just sea, sky, and a fading sting where the moss's glow lingers under your skin like swallowed moonlight. The brine stings your nostrils before you see it, a slit in the cliffside weeping salt water. Rivna kneels, her dagger scraping moss from carved stone. Crying angels, always a cheerful welcome. The archway's keystone sags, its inscription blurred by tides. Ankefenkansu maybe, or property of Poseidon. Gray light spills through the entrance, washing over steps that vanish into black lagoon. You descend. Dunk your hand. The water's warmer here, a thermal spring, or tomb's fever sweat. Your scarab mark prickles. Ripples distort into hieroglyphs, a liquid warning. Too late to read. Rivna's torch gutters doused by a draft from below. Classic. 5-star haunted sauna. She relights it. The flame blues, an unnatural teal. Shadows leap, revealing walls carved with sunken cities. Chariots drown mid-charge. Crowns dissolve in rising waves. Historians still argue whether the Great Flood of 1180 BCE ended Queen Mernith's reign or made her legend. The water deepens, lapping your ribs. A submerged colonnade emerges, pillars bearded with algae. Your torchlight skitters across a ceiling mosaic. Women weaving a tapestry of storms. One figure stands apart, her shuttle poised above a flood's first ripple. Rivna treads water beside a plinth. Offerings. She lifts a crusted amphora, its seal intact. The scarab mark flares. You shake your head. She shrugs. Your funeral wine. Curtains of seaweed part, revealing the chamber's heart. A sarcophagus rests on a dais, waterline kissing its carvings. Lapis lazuli inlay glows dully, a woman's face framed by serpents. The lid's ajar. Inside, silt, bone fragments, and a corroded crook-end flail. Rivna peers in. Should sprung for a better waterproofing contractor. You reach and freeze. The water stills. A hum vibrates your molars, an anchor chain dragged across bedrock. The crook-end flail rises, levitating as if pulled by marionette strings. It clatters against the sarcophagus lid, spelling letters in the silt. Who wears the drowned crown? Rivna snorts. Pop quiz. Lovely. The water churns. Something brushes your ankle, smooth as kelp, strong as cable. You kick. It retreats only to snare Rivna's wrist. She slashes with her dagger. The blade skids off, a metallic screech. Eels with armor, cheating. The crook-end flail trembles, waiting. You scan the carvings. A queen stands atop a ziggurat, arms raised as a tsunami looms. Her crown, a spiral shell gripped by tentacles. Your lungs burn. Think. The scarab mark sears your hand, moves without consent. You trace the shell shape in the water. The crook-end flail clatters, approving. The eel thing releases Rivna. Retreats. The sarcophagus lid grinds shut, sealing with a hiss of released air. The dais shudders. Slides aside, revealing a spiraling shaft. Water cascades into it, a swallowed waterfall. Rivna wrings out her braid. This how they watered the pyramid spa. You plunge into the vortex. The current spins you, an insect in a drain. Bioluminescent worms streak past, turquoise tracer bullets. Quirky fact. 9th century embalmers sometimes preserved nobles in honey instead of natron, eternal sweetness, until tomb raiders got diabetes. The shaft spits you into a flooded basilica. Moonlight filters through cracks above, illuminating frescoes of a queen's funeral. Priests row her coffin through submerged streets. Fish nibble burial garlands. Chinese letter, 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 Chinese letter. A glint catches your eye. A golden box nestled in an alcove. The scarab mark pulses, half yes, half migraine. You swim closer. Chain links coil around the box, each etched with eyes. Medusa's contact list. Rivna surfaces, gasping. Found the gift shop. The box resists, then clicks open. Inside, a scroll case encrusted with barnacles. You crack the seal. Parchment unfurls. A child's drawing of a wave gobbling a castle. Flip it. A poem in looping script. Kings build with stone, queens with breath drown the scepter, defy the death. The water groans. Above, a slab of ceiling detonates. Salt spray rains as the basilica begins its final collapse. Rivna ducks a falling column. Exit strategy. Now, you kick toward a crack in the wall, eels nipping your heels. The scarab mark glows, guiding like a lighthouse. The tunnel narrows, darkens. Air dwindles to a fingernail's width. Then, up, always up. You breach into foaming surf, the Normandy cliffs looming behind. The scroll case weighs your pocket, dripping and silent. Rivna floats on her back, cursing in 3 languages. In the distance, a shadow detaches from the waves, a stone hand dissolving into sea foam. Your scarab mark fades, its task complete. For now, the tide carries you ashore, each wave a cold reminder. Some graves stay guarded, some queens refuse their epilogue. The cliff winds whip the salt from your hair as you stagger inland, boots crunching on shale that prickles like broken teeth. Rivna sniffs. Smoke, not campfire. A distant glow pulses through pines, a rhythm mimicking weary footsteps. You crest a hill and freeze. A banquet hall rots between 2 oaks. Its timber beams sag, moss devouring carved dragons. Tables buckle under platters of charred songbirds and wine glazed with mold. Guests slump in their seats, skin mottled blue-green, fingers fused to tarnished goblets. Rivna pokes a roast pig. The flesh caves in, revealing a maggot millipede. 5-second rules expired. A phantom lute plinks. The corpses twitch, their necks creaking toward you. Eye sockets glisten with beetle trails. Historians still argue whether Roman elites really baked dormice in honey, or if that's just dinner party slander. A chair scrapes. A woman in a decomposing ermine robe rises, her jaw unhinging like a serpent's. Ash drifts from her sleeves. She gestures to a seat choked by brambles. The invitation needs no words. Rivna grips her dagger. Time to critique the menu. You step closer. The tablecloth crumbles, exposing wood riddled with termite highways. Quirky fact: medieval bakers added ash to bread dough. Flavor booster or desperate times. Tonight's loaf oozes black ichor. The corpse queen tilts her head. A pewter plate slides toward you, bearing a quivering gelatin mold. Inside, suspended eyeballs. Yours, hers, the 1308 Parisian banquet poisonings had similar presentation. Coincidence or culinary homage? Revenant stabs a bloated grape. It pops spewing vapors that reek of gangrene. Vintage year? Never. A skeletal page shuffles past, offering a terrain of liquid shadow. You decline. It splashes the floor, etching a map of the citadel you just fled. Convenient. Suspicious. The scarab mark stays cold. Neutral territory then. Flames gutter in wrought iron braziers. Shadows stretch the corpses taller, their fingers elongating toward your satchel. The scroll case from the tomb hums. Not a good sign. The corpse queen's hand splays over the table, bones rearranging into letters. Seek the taster's grace. Revenant groans. Riddles over dessert. Rude, your gut tightens. Think, historical tasters died for rulers, but some developed immunity. Trial by poison, you mutter. The gelatin quivers. You dip a finger, tongue brushing the toxin. Fire floods your veins. The hall blurs and reforms. The guests now writhe mid-bite, their decay reversed. Golden platters overflow with figs and candied rose petals. The queen beams lips stitched with gold thread. She offers a honeyed locust. Revenant's reflection glares from a gravy boat. Don't you dare. You swallow. Sweetness erupts, then turns ashy. The vision crumbles. The hall's rotting again, but your hand steadies. The corpses recoil. The corpse queen hisses. A death watch beetles rattle. Her ermine robe slews off, revealing a spine strung with rusted keys. She collapses into a maggot mound. Tables upend. Platters swarm with centipedes, their legs clicking Morse code insults. A chandelier crashes, shattering into raven feathers. Revenant drags you backward. Check paid. Let's bounce. You sprint into pines, lungs shredding on icy air. Behind, the hall's remains ignite, a pyre painting the clouds ochre. The scroll case warms. Inside, the child's drawing now shows a feast, tiny hands reaching from the plates. You snap it shut. Revenant licks soot from her blade. Next time, we skip dinner and just stab things. Moonlight guides you downhill, past a creek whispering forgotten recipes. The menu included you tonight. Almost irregular, moonlight pools around a crumbling scriptorium, its slate roof caved in like a stepped-on pastry. Ink stains streak the walls, centuries-old drips frozen mid-fall. Your boot nudges a shattered lectern. A book splays open, pages swollen with mildew. The first entry's mundane. Grain yields, a mule's stubborn colic. Then the script clots, ink bled into desperate loops. Third night without sleep. Walls whisper the abbot's crimes. Revenant inspects a quill still lodged in plaster. Goose feather. Classic overcompensation. You turn a page. The ink shifts, letters rearranging as you read. Forgive me, the poisoned sacrament becomes the children saw his true. Historians still argue whether medieval scribes used hallucinogenic ink for divine inspiration. Judging by these margins, maybe the interns did. A droplet hits the parchment. Your sweat. The ceiling's dry. The stain spreads, forming a handprint that seizes your wrist. Rivna yanks you back, touching cursed journals, not on my babysitting bingo card. The book levitates, pages fanning into a vortex. A voice grates through the room. Read, bear witness. Cobwebs tremble in unison. You glimpse a final entry, and the air curdles. I buried them alive beneath the chapel stones. Their little fingernails, oh God, scraping the text erupts in black tendrils, ink becoming beetles that scuttle up your arms. Rivna smashes a flask of communion wine over the book. Alcohol sizzles. The beetles dissolve into vague retro-Satana calligraphy. Quirky fact. Some monastic inks included wine as a binder. Turns out it's also decent pest control. The diary collapses, charring at the edges. Moonlight catches one surviving phrase. Find the well where their laughter lingers. Shadows deepen. A child's giggle echoes from the cloisters, high-pitched, wrong. Your lantern dims. Rivna mutters a curse her mother would spank her for. We're not orphan hunting, she warns. Too late, your feet move toward rubble-choked stairs, drawn by the smell of wet limestone and gingerbread. The cellar's flooded. Reflections show small hands pressing against the water's skin, palms silvery, like fish bellies. A toy soldier floats by, his lead face melted. Rivna pokes it with her boot. Never trust a man in uniform. You wade deeper. The water thickens, syrupy, ink-warm. Submerged shelves hold jars labeled aquavity. Most cracked, one intact vial glows, its liquid humming like a trapped wasp. The laughter crescendos. You dive. Darkness presses your lungs, but the scarab mark flares. Below, a grate reveals tiny bones woven into a helix pattern, a memento mori, or a child's friendship bracelet. Air runs out. You surface gasping, clutching the vial. The laughter stops. Rivna studies the bones, died together. Siblings, maybe. She pauses. They deserved better. Her rare sincerity hangs heavier than the cellar's stench. You pocket the vial. Its glass etches frost patterns on your thigh, a map or a scar. Above, an owl screeches. Dawn's not coming. The scriptorium door slams shut as you leave. Some shelves restock themselves, quills scratching phantom confessions. Your lantern gutters out. The vial pulses once, twice, silent. Rivna lights a stolen candle off a lightning-struck oak. Next time, stick to grocery lists. You walk. The confession festers in your pack, a thrumming reminder. Small fingernails, scraping, forgive, campfire smoke tugs you east. The vial's glow syncs with your pulse now. Coincidence? Doubtful. The road ahead shimmers, a mirage of cloaked figures circling a well. Rivna squares her shoulders. If we meet ghost kids, I'm feeding them to the maggot pig. Your shadow stretches long, ink bleeding into the dirt. The diary's stains linger under your nails. No amount of scrubbing will fix that. The vial's pulse thrums through your pack, steady as a dying man's clock. Grit crunches underfoot. Rivna sniffs the air. Smells like old pennies and disappointment. Ahead, a brass colossus blocks the path, its jointed limbs fused with cathedral pipes. Gears grind, a sound like spoons in a coffin. Oil seeps from its chest cavity, black streaks staining sigils you half recognize. Veni, vidi, combusti etched across its collarbone. Historian, brain, do your thing, Rivna mutters. You circle the automaton. Its head swivels with clockwork precision, eyes made from fractured stained glass. The voice emerges, a wheezing bellows chanting Latin psalms. Qui custodit ostium, door guardian, you translate. Its left arm ends in a sword, right arm in a quill. Classic Hellenistic automaton design, hero of Alexandria, described similar contraptions. Too bad this one's rusting at the hinges. Rivna pokes its foot with her boot. If I kick the holy gears, do I get a plenary indulgence? The sentinel jerks to life, quill darting toward her throat. You yank her back. Oil droplets splatter her jacket. Divine machinery needs an oil change, she coughs. Cold blue flames ignite in its chest cavity. The psalms distort a skipping chant. Non, non-licit. You glance at the leaking oil. Historians still argue whether these things were built to guard treasures or guilt. Something glints in the tarnished chest cavity, a pendulum swinging through ash. Rivna digs through your pack, sibling bones, cursed ink, unholy motor oil. We're basically necromechanics now. She waves the vial, its glow syncs with the pendulum. Toss this in. You hesitate. Accounts say medieval monks tried building clockwork angels to speak God's will. Most exploded during Vespers, hence the eternal fire hazard stench. The automaton lurches forward, quill gouging the dirt. Prohiber. Rivna lobs the vial. Glass shatters. Bioluminescent liquid floods the gears. Oil transmutes into vermilion smoke. The machine spasms, stained glass, eyes melting. How do you know that work? She asks. You shrug. Monastic inks used wine. Figured holy hooch beats possessed physics. The sentinel collapses, a deflated bellows. Through its cracked chest plate, you spot a keyhole shaped like the scarab mark. Your palm itches, crescent wound throbbing in approval. Rivna wipes sludge off her face. Next time, you do the heretic grenade toss. Moonlight reveals a new path, cobblestones gleaming like wet teeth. The automaton's last whisper follows you. Custos sum, custos iram. Silence settles, broken only by your heartbeat and Rivna's muttered psalms. She's off key. Deliberately, the cobblestones end where the dirt road begins, crumbling like stale cake under your boots. Rivna hums a tavern hymn, something about turnips and treason. Moonlight vanishes, swallowed by storm clouds pregnant with unshed rain. A cough rasps ahead. A child huddles against a broken cartwheel, cloak frayed into moth wings. Their outstretched palm cradles a locket, its chain tangled in grime. Didn't steal it, they croak. Dust streaks their face, where tears carved riverbeds. You recognize the gang's signs tattooed on their wrist. Roma travelers, expelled from medieval France for fortune-telling crimes. History remembers their caravans burned few recall. They pioneered early anesthesia using mandrake root. Rivna crouches. Identify theft victim first. Then we haggle. The locket clicks open. A miniature stares back. The face hits like a misplaced memory. Same nose as the Bastille prison's chief architect. Same eyes as that fresco of St. Lucy in Rouen. Or maybe you're hallucinating from 3 days without sleep. Historians still argue whether plague masks stuffed with herbs really purified air, or just made doctors look like deranged ravens. You mutter, fumbling for coin. The child grabs your sleeve. They'll kill me if you don't take it. A guttural shout echoes downhill, torchlight bobbing in the fog. Rivna snorts. We're lugging enough cursed knickknacks to stock the Vatican's lost and found. She flips the locket, AA engraved inside. Agnes Arnaud, Anne of Austria, amateur alchemist. Lightning splits the sky. The portrait's eyes flicker, oil paint pupils dilating. Your scarab wound throbs a Morse code warning. Bad juju, Rivna declares. Also, terrible craftsmanship. Look how they butchered the enamel, the child hisses, shoving the locket into your hand. It sears your palm, the metal suddenly fever hot. First law of cursed artifacts. Once accepted, never returned. Torchlight crests the hill. 5 men loom, leather hoods dripping with, is that garlic? Quarantine symbols stitched onto their cloaks. One gestures with a flail, his middle finger missing. The stump capped with a rusty thimble, hand over the thief. His breath reeks of sour wine and tooth decay. Rivna draws her dagger, a ceremonial toothpick, against their blades. We're just admiring their accessory choices. Our thimble fingertips the new Milanese fashion. The locket vibrates, humming dies iri in microscopic reverb. You flip it open. The portrait's mouth moves, silent words forming. You recognize the syllables from Notre Dame's bells. Libera, libera knows. Drop it, you shout, flinging the locket skyward. It explodes midair, showering silver shards. The men scream, clutching faces, suddenly bristling with metal splinters. The child vanishes, leaving a single saffron thread snagged on thistle. Rivna prods a fallen torch. Locket bombs. That's new. Wonder if Catherine de Medici's poisoners ever tried. 13th century Venetian. Assassins rigged jewelry with leprosy scabs. You interrupt, staring at your unscarred hand. But the fuse mechanism, too advanced for pre-Renaissance craftsmen. Rain finally falls, washing blood and melted silver into the mud. Through the downpour, a silhouette watches from the tree line, too tall, too still. The child, someone else wearing their face. Rivna pockets a locket fragment, chain coiled like a viper. If we pawn this in Marseille, drinks are on me. You walk. The storm dissolves footprints and questions alike. Whatever game you've joined, the board keeps expanding. Kings, children, copper-smelling rain. Your pack grows heavier with every lie the road peels back. The mural hits like a gut punch there, You are crudely painted beside Rivna near a donkey cart. Your ochre silhouette peels away in real time, flakes falling like dried blood. Someone's editing us out of the story, Rivna says, dipping her finger in a puddle. She smears the surface, the water repelling her touch like mercury. You recognize the artistry, Byzantine era encaustic wax mixed with egg yolk. Shame about the portrait skills. Who gave you that wonky nose? Historians still argue whether these pigments held ritual power or just made churches smell like a fried breakfast. Your likeness crumbles past the knees now. You fumble for ink, spilling vials of crushed lapis, lazuli, worth a medieval duke's ransom. No wonder monks went blind grinding this stuff. It glows like bottled starlight. Rivna snorts. You're repainting with stone from Afghanistan. In France, that's like garnishing rotten meat with saffron. The mural shudders, your remaining hand vanishes. You daub blue onto the wall, the pigment wriggles, forming letters you've seen in the pilgrim's stolen ledger. Turn back, turn back. Problem, Rivna says. Her voice sounds distant, tinny, my left boot's fading. Sure enough, her foot disappears mid-calf. She stamps. The amputation line retreats an inch. A memory surfaces. Those Baltic mummies found in churches, bodies preserved by copper-green paint seeped into their skin. We're part of the canvas now, you mutter, watching your forearm translucent as rice paper. Rivna lobs a flask at the wall, wine splashes into a thorny vine crawling across the scene. The fresco hisses, temporarily still. Quick, what's our most embarrassing secret? Murals love trauma. You slap pigment where your heart should be. That time we mistook Dublin for Dunkirk. Too tame. She carves a rune into the plaster with her thumbnail. Admit you pocketed the Vatican's fork during the Bologna fire. The mural groans, your torso flickers back into existence. So that's how frescoes work, blackmail as conservation technique. Light bleeds through the ceiling. No, through a painted ceiling depicting storm clouds. Your scarf unravels, threads rising to join woolen brushstrokes above. Rivna grabs your wrist, defacing church arts, a one-way trip to the stake etched on her forearm, like a tattoo. Faces emerge in the border, those plague doctors with thimble fingers. Their painted jaws unhinge, sucking at your remaining colors. You swipe the lapis, its glow dying as their tongues lap the minerals. A section of wall cracks, revealing older layers beneath. Carolingian script snakes under your feet, caveat viator, let the traveler beware. The original artist's fingerprint mars the O, eternal reminder that even saints smudged their work. Switch mediums. You croak, half your vocal cords now graphite gray. You smash an ink pot. The puddle reflects not your face, but an umber smear with panic-dotted eyes. Rivna tears her sleeve, presses the fabric to the wall. The linen drinks the pigments. Her arm rematerializes as the dye transfers. We're not conserving history. She grits. We're fighting a landfill of lost egos. The mural's border expands, eating into the chamber's real stones. A painted rat scampers onto your boot, chewing your fading laces. You shake it off. It plops into the puddle, becoming three-dimensional, before dissolving into resin and bone dust. Footsteps echo, but the sound comes from inside the fresco. A vermilion figure approaches, hooded, holding a brush made of human hair. It reaches for your half-erased face. You bite your crumbling thumb, spit blood onto the brush. The figure recoils, its hand blistering crimson. Folk tailies got one thing right: fresh blood wrecks old magic. The mural stills your body, mostly intact. For now. Rivna peels a flaking battle scene, rolls it like a map. Proof we survived our own damn biography. As you retreat, the ceiling's woolen storm clouds rain rust-colored water. It stains your collar, smelling of quicksilver and envy. Some stories refuse closure. They just exhaust you into letting go. The corridor ahead shrinks, walls narrowing like a vice. Your pack scrapes the stones, spilling ink-stained bandages and regret. A whisper follows the fresco's final taunt. You forgot to paint the exit. The corridor squeezes your ribs, each breath scraping like rusted hinges. Those shadows you thought were rat-shaped. Their edges blur, lengthening into gaunt cheeks and parted lips. Silent pleas ripple across limestone, soundless shouts that vibrate your fillings. Air thickens. A church bell's hum trapped underground. The wall ahead warps, stones rearranging into an archway that wasn't there 10 seconds ago. Its keystone sports a familiar carve. Rivna's crude doodle of you riding a three-legged donkey. You trace the lintel, fingers snagging on petrified cobwebs, smelling of wet wool and funeral incense. Remember those gargoyles back in Rouen? Rainwater vomiting from their stone gullets. This doorway feels equally alive, a throat waiting to swallow. A shadow face drifts close, its mouth shaping a word. Anne, your mother's name. Unbidden, a memory surfaces. Her reading beads ecclesiastical history by Hearthlight, pointing out Ethelthryth's magic resistance to marital duties. You flinch, the face dissolves into smoke. The archway's center shimmers, opal hues dancing like northern lights trapped in glass. Step closer, your boots crunch crushed shells embedded in mortar. Ah, Roman concrete, they mixed in oyster shells for toughness. Still holds up better than modern highways. A handprint glows on the threshold, palms smudged in what could be ochre or dried blood. Yours. You press your hand over it. Cold radiates up your arm, joints locking. Medieval masons sealed live cats in walls, their yowls thought to repel evil spirits. You suddenly envy the cats. The doorway exhales, a gust carrying time and decaying parchment. Through the haze, a vaulted chamber materializes. Its walls pulse, frescoes melting and reforming. A crusader's face becomes Revna's, then yours, then a stranger's with wolf-sharp teeth. Lovely, you mutter. Hell's multiplex cinema, half-visible figures stride past, armored knees phasing through your thighs. Their tabards show the Angevin leopard, but their helmets. Pure Sassanid design, Time's not just thin here, it's shedding layers like a sunburned tourist. A parchment slaps your face, materializing midair. The wax seal, coiled serpent, same as that raven's warning back in section 10. You crack it open. Mean tekel upharsin. Babylonian graffiti, you snort, could just texted you up. The letters unravel, floating upward to join constellations painted on the ceiling. Leo's tail knots into Arabic script. Ursa Major becomes a list of Saxon taxes. You spot an error in the star math. Charlemagne's astronomers screwed up Vega's coordinates. A mosaic floor writhes, tesserae rearranging with each step. You sidestep a scene of Vikings disemboweling sheep, only for it to flip into a nun brewing ale. Historians still argue whether priest holes hid refugees or the clergy's secret mistresses. That nun's suspiciously well-stocked cellar supports both theories. Light fractures, prisming into colors no Norman tongue ever named. You shield your eyes, stumbling into a stone plinth. On it, a weathered handbell, its clapper replaced by a human finger bone. Your stomach lurches. Cromwell's troops melted down 1,000 such relics, turning sainthood into cannon fodder. The bell tolls itself, a muted clang that blue shifts the air. The walls blink, now wood-paneled, now hung with tapestries, now oozing raw pigment. A grandfather clock manifests, its hands spinning backward. No, wait, the numbers themselves are migrating. VII and VII duel with tiny swords. That's new. Your voice comes out warped, a gramophone recording played at half speed. Rivna's name curdles in your mouth, becomes Revnalpha with a glowing Greek alpha. Letters drip off your tongue, puddling into something that snaps at your boots. The door. Where's the damn door? It's behind you now, framed by floating chess pieces. Bishops castle themselves, pawns promote to dragons. Checkmate in 3 moves, but whose? The chamber's shrinking, or are you swelling? Your pack straps dig into suddenly giant shoulders. A mirror glimmers one pane in a stained glass window. Your reflection wears a crown, or is it an iron maiden helmet? Can't tell, it's busy mouthing advice. You lean closer, break the glass. You hesitate. 7 years bad luck versus whatever this is. The reflection rolls its eyes, plucks an eyelash, flicks it. The glass cracks. Shards hover, each showing a different you. Bleeding in a desert, chained in a dungeon, laughing with a stranger. One fragment stutters, a loop of you eating soup, the cosmic horror of infinite soup use. Any survival tips? You ask the reflections. A shard flares your face, aged 70 years, holding a child's skeleton. Pass. Another glows, Rivna yanking you through a burning archway. Warmer, you grab that fragment, it slices your palm. Blood hits the floor, igniting a symbol. The Carolingian cross from Charlemagne's tomb. His alleged skeleton sits upright in Aachen, crowned and sceptered. Tourist trap or holy relic. Atheists still get nosebleeds near it. The blood cross spins, a key grinding in reality's lock. The chamber folds, walls accordioning into a tunnel. Air whooshes past, a train horn blares. Wait, no trains in 12th century Normandy. Time's not a river here, it's a spilled stew. The exit reappears. A simple oak door labeled C16 storage. No admittance. Modern hazard stickers plaster the frame. You peek through the keyhole, moonlight over a Ducati, parked beside a donkey cart. Perfect. Hand on the knob, you glance back. Shadow faces crowd the threshold, lips still voiceless. One resembles your first Tudor eyes begging you to stay. Your grip tightens. Sorry, Master Ilfric. I flunked theology anyway. You turn the knob. Its click louder than Waterloo's cannons. Behind you, 300 years of architecture collapse into a sneeze. Ahead, cold wind and stars that laugh in Latin. The last shadow reaches out its finger, brushing your neck. You step through, the door slamming shut on a syllable that will haunt your 3 a.m. wakefulness for decades. Moonlight bathes a circular chamber, its ceiling open to star-streaked voids. Before you, a stone pedestal. Upon it, the crown, spider silk filaments catching starlight. You expected jewels, maybe pearls filched from a Mikado's ransom. Instead, delicate silver threads, forming a circlet so thin your breath might snap them. It's lighter than the palm-sized denarius you once traded for bad sausages in Amiens. Gothic queens wore crowns weighing up to 5 pounds, their necks disfigured by holy bling. This, you could balance it on a dandelion head. The air reeks of myrrh and foot fungus, medieval European ointments, favored goose fat, a quirk surviving in backwater monasteries. Monks swore it cured night blindness, alongside prayers to Saint Lucy. Shadows coil around the pedestal, thin as smoke rings. They hiss at your approach, revealing fangs of condensed starlight. Your stolen scarab thrums its carapace, scratching against your hip pocket. Hieroglyphs warned of this. What rules without weight binds without chains. A mosaic spans the floor. Charlemagne's 806 AD coronation robes, stitched with North African lion pelts. Historians still argue whether medieval crowns were holy relics or fancy PR for illiterate mobs. The debate's alive in the tiles. Charlemagne's face flickers between pious humility and a smirk. You reach, hesitate, snort. What's the worst that could on-ope? Not finishing that thought, the crown levitates, threads humming like plucked harp strings. Your scalp tingles before you've even touched it. Ever worn a hat lined WITH, Chinese letter? Multiply by eternity. Shadows lash out, one grazes your wrist. Cold seeps in memories, flooding your skull. A nun's calloused hands weaving flax. A king's mistress biting a garnet ring. A blacksmith's daughter burying her stillborn in a barley field. Lives not yours, pressed into your neurons like wax seals. Ad-free version, please. You gasp, yanking your hand back. The crown descends, nestling into your hair. No weight, just pressure, like water closing over a drowning man's head. Your knees hit marble, not by choice. The room telescopes, walls retreating to reveal a cavern. Things stir in the dark. Not rats, not spiders. Whatever has too many joints and not enough eyes. They bow carcasses crackling like stepped-on twigs. You taste their submission coppery foreign. Uncrew this horror show, you rasp, clutching the crown. A voice slithers up your spine, genderless as a hanged man's last breath. To wield the weightless is to be crushed by absence. The scarab scorches your thigh, its etched warnings proved tragically legit. Laughter echoes yours, but warped. The crown tightens, threads sinking into your skull. No blood, just a phantom IV drip feeding your braincase with arithmetic. Prime numbers dart behind your eyelids, Pythagorean theorems knotting into nooses. Hard pass, you claw at the circlet, its filaments resisting like migrant muscle fibers. A shadow lunges, tearing the crown away. Your skull screams, vacuum sealed. The thief retreats, contorting around its prize. Silver threads unravel, dissolving into the void. The pedestal cracks, releasing a moth the size of a trencher loaf. Its wings, pages from the doomsday book, ink swirling into new census records. You appear under Devonshire Holdings' occupation, thief of intangible heirlooms. The scarab pulses, an angry heartbeat. You lob it at the moth, hitting a wing. Parchment ignites, flames chewing through Elizabeth I's tax reforms. The moth flees trailing smoke that spells apologize to Anubis in Coptic script. The chamber dims, moonlight retreating like a jilted lover. Exit. A fissure in the north wall the size and shape of a bread oven. You dive, shoulders scraping stone. The crown's absence lingers, a phantom limb made of melted crowns. Cool night air slaps your face, a relief undercut by distant howls. Behind, the fissure seals itself with a sound like teeth biting an apple. Ahead, a field of stunted wheat. Wind twists the stalks into runes that fade before you decipher them. You check your pack, ink vials intact. The scarab, reduced to blackened slag. Your hair smells of burned honey and failures. A leather-bound book materializes at your feet. Its cover, your initials stamped in wax, dated to the Third Crusade. Inside, blank pages. Still better than your diary from section 22. That thing needed trigger warnings. Crouching, you flick to the middle. Words bloom under your touch, rust-colored ink forming a list. 1 crowns unwove. 2 shadows defied. 3 debt incurred. Beneath, a sketch of your face, mouth sewn shut with silver thread. You snap the book closed, its spine hissing. Dawn bleeds across the horizon. No warmth, just a lighter shade of bruise. Your boots squelch through mud that reeks of turned graves. The weightless crown's absence clings, an itch no scratching will fix. 3 crows pace you, their heads cocked at matching angles. 1 coughs up a rat bone, another a pilgrim badge from Santiago. The third offers your own molar, enamel glittering with fractal patterns. You decline politely. Manners matter even in freefall. The road ahead forks, not metaphorically. Literal furrows split the dirt, one heading toward a lighthouse, the other into fog. Your canteen gurgles, last dregs of wine mingling with resignation. A stone marker lists distances. Jerusalem, 1,200 leagues. Aachen, smell the heresy home. Scratched out. You unscrew the canteen, toast the crow, now wearing your molar as a pendant. The wine's vinegary bite mirrors your mood. A voice whispers, maybe the wind, maybe your conscience's unpaid intern. What kings escape, pawns endure. Dawn cracks open, a raw yolk spilling across the field. You choose the fog because screw lighthouses, they're just pyres for cautious idiots. Fog swallows the path, damp tendrils clinging like ancestral regrets. Your boot brushes a standing stone, its mossy surface etched with Ogham script, Ireland's ancient alphabet, each mark a barbed hook for catching secrets. A fire blooms ahead, no fuel, just blue flames writhing above a stone slab. Remember the Viking Nithstang. This is its angrier cousin. Missing, the horse skull. Present, a priestess hooded in what looks like burnt choir robes. She chants, Old Norse syllables warping into modern English. To pass, you must untie the knot your mother's tongue bound. Historians still argue whether forgotten names return as curses or the universe's belated apologies. 3 spectral badgers circle the fire, their eyes reflecting runes instead of retinas. Medieval cunning folk used badger fat for truth ointments. This crew probably audits liars in the afterlife. The priestess extends a hand, palm scored with crescent scars. Your name, not the one scratched on tavern receipts. The other, you bluff. I've got an Amazon Prime membership. Her sigh smells of vervain and disappointment. 6th century Britons chewed that herb before swearing oaths, their version of notarized documents. The flames leap, searing your cheek with the elder Futhark symbol for liar. Try again with vertebrae. Cold spreads through your jaw, teeth chattering out sounds you've buried. IKHN, fire erupts, not around you, inside. Ribs glow like iron filaments, your sternum branding a word in Merovingian lettering. The Scarabs' slagged remains vibrate, recognizing their maker's hand. Shadows congeal into figures, some Byzantine, others resembling your 3rd grade teacher. They chorus. She who forgets her name remembers everyone else's sins. You gag on phantom tastes, salt water and pomegranate seeds. Carthaginian sailors allegedly ate poppy seed cakes before battles to forget their fear. Your version, less pastry, more existential freefall. The priestess peels back her hood, revealing a face stitched from liturgical parchment. Names are prison cells. Relinquish yours or become warden to a ghost. Your knees buckle, not devotion. The rune on your chest now reads usurer in Visigothic script. Charming. A knife materializes, hilt wrapped in catgut. You recognize the blade style. 14th century Bolognese Quillian dagger, handles warm like it recently vacationed in someone's aorta. Cut the thread, the priestess hisses, or wear your name until it carves through bone. Memories surge, A desert well where you lied about being Alice from the bakery. A bishop's tomb where you pocketed silver candlesticks. That guard in Marseille who screamed, "Remember me," as he bled out. The dagger trembles. You think of Section 17's thorn-marked palm, how it ached during false oaths. Wind shrieks through the Ogham stone, spelling a name you've never uttered aloud. The priestess freezes, parchment face wrinkling. Impossible. You stab the knife into the fire. Not the slab, the actual flames. Blue inferno curdles into a swarm of scarabs. They devour the priestess's robes, exposing a spine made of rosary beads. Her shriek shakes, loose a rain of communion wafers. The standing stones topple each Ogham mark, now spelling REDACTED. Your chest rune fades, but leaves a scar shaped like an unsealed letter. Free to go. Sure, if go means wading through ankle-deep muck that reeks of Catiline's conspiracy. The badgers trail you, chanting tax records from the Ming dynasty. Helpful, not even slightly. Ahead, a bridge cobbled from broken quill nibs. Midway across, your reflection ripples, not your face. The priestess's parchment visage mouthing, "I owe you nothing." You spit into the water because symbolic gestures beat actual therapy. The scarab swarm reconstitutes into a road sign. All returns final. No exchanges for lost souls. Dawns a rumor here gray with unfinished business. Your pack feels heavier. Inside, the name you almost surrendered folded into a origami raven. Its beady eyes judge your life choices. You whisper, "Not today, ineffable IRS." The badgers nod, approving. Or maybe they're just hungry. Either way, you keep walking. Names can haunt, but so can the silence between them. The horizon bleeds peach and silver, dawn's counterfeit blush. Your pack strains your shoulders, each relic inside humming like a trapped hornet. Cairo's spice markets taught you bartering, but haggling with sunlight. No guidebook covers this. A leech squirms under your boot, plump, with ink-black blood. Medieval scribes used those for writing exorcisms. This one's probably freelanced for darker contracts. Your flask offers last sips, water flavored with regret. And THREE, Chinese letter olive pits. Historians still argue whether pilgrims abandoned treasures out of piety or because cursed objects gain sentience at daybreak. The scarab twitches in your pack, confirming option. Be you unstrap the leather ties. Ancient brass clasps spark burning thumbprints into your skin. 18th century French locksmiths would have wept at the craftsmanship. You're too busy calculating which relic will miss you most. First to go, the bishop's candlesticks. Molten silver streaks their sides, a permanent blush from the Section 12 firefight. They clang against a menhir, waking a nest of iridescent centipedes. Norse traders carried those in amulet boxes as memory keepers. These look ready to invoice you for emotional labor. Next, the origami raven. Its folded wings pulse, threatening to unfold into a warranty agreement. "Fly," you mutter. It dive bombs your earlobe instead. Clever girl. Dawn brightens, a solar creditor tallying your debts. You chuck the raven skyward. It ricochets off invisible glass, falling as confetti scraps that spell non-refundable in cuneiform. The scarab stays silent. It rode shotgun since Section 7, glowing hotter. With every bad decision, you press it to your thorn-marked palm. The crescent scar pulses, reminding you whose grief you've been hauling across continents. Go haunt a museum, you whisper. Get appraised. Enjoy retirement. You fling it into the light. It arcs, a tiny comet, before disintegrating. The explosion leaves afterimages. A woman's laughter, the clink of a tavern goblet, the sting of a Marseille blade. Your empty pack flaps like a starving mouth. You toss in last night's walnut shells, polished smooth by paranoid fingering. A consolation prize for whatever monster inherits your burdens. Sunlight hits. Proper daylight, brutal and undeniable. The relic's whispering fades, replaced by skylarks mocking your newfound lightness. Historians love debating pilgrim luggage. They never mention how shoulders remember phantom weight, or how freedom smells like dust and poor life choices. You walk, not east or west, just forward. The road peels itself up at the edges, a scroll being rerolled. No badgers, no runes, just your shadow, finally the correct length. Candle wax, rivers carve canyons down the brass holder, your last light fighting the dark. The scarab's absence leaves your pack gasping, its indent still warm as a fresh grave. You fish out a quill nibbled by silverfish. Scarbrun and Co., Vienna's finest parchment purveyors, would faint at this heresy. Someone strangles a rooster 3 villages over. False dawn. You uncork oak gall ink, medieval Europe's favorite preserve, equal parts tannin and spite. The smell punches your sinuses. Apothecaries once sold this stuff as nostalgia repellent. Works better than pepper spray. Your first stroke bleeds through the page. 17th century scribes swore raven feathers carried words to the dead. This quill's just pigeon, messenger of takeout menus and parking tickets. Esteemed mother, you write, then scratch out mother. Too formal for a woman who threatened to haunt your student loans. Ever seen Arabic coffee grounds cling to a cup? That's how your thoughts stick now, half prophetic sludge, half caffeine regrets. The nib spits ink blots. One resembles Napoleon's hat, another, the scarab's smug face. You detail the river that flowed uphill near Saddleharuk. Made goats seasick. 15 pomegranate saplings bribed the ferryman, his teeth blackened by chewing too many tax exemptions. Historians still argue whether pilgrim letters used invisible ink or just bad metaphors. Both, you suspect. A draft licks the candle. Shadows jerk like hanged men dancing. Remember that camel who ate your hat in Section 9. Its ghost would laugh at your penmanship. Each vowel slopes left a drunk leaning away from sobriety. The stars hear taste of salt, you scrawl. Or maybe that's blood from chewing my tongue. The candle gutters. Your last parchment holds more stains than words, a Rorschach test for future archivists. One splotch looks like Lisbon, another a fist. You sign with your thumbprint. Bind the letter with hair from a Kyrene hag's wig, section 18's most dignified souvenir. The seal wax bubbles like molten cartilage. Your breath crystallizes mid-curse. Dawn's first blade slices the horizon. The candle drowns in its own wax, a quiet death. Your final word smears, a comet's tail eclipsed by sunlight. Somewhere a raven croaks. Bills come due. Dreams go unanswered. The inky crescent on your palm throbs, a heartbeat outliving its host. The candle's flame shrinks to a blue pearl, its fight against the night, now a gentle surrender. That beetle-shaped hollow in your pack still cradles warmth, a memory of wings folded into silence. Your thumb traces the nib's teeth marks, tiny scars from time's appetite. Vienna's finest parchment purveyors would weep at this frayed relic, but the page still drinks your ink. A distant rooster chokes on dawn's lie. You dip your quill, tannin bitterness rising like a choir of medieval scribes. They called this ink ghost repellent, yet here you are writing to one. Dearest mother, you begin, then smirk. She'd prefer the honesty of crossed-out words anyway. Coffee dregs in a cracked cup, your thoughts pool, just as thick. The quill hiccups a blot that could be a crown or a scarab smirk. You describe rivers that forgot gravity, goats retching on tilted plains. 15 saplings paid the ferryman's toll, his grin stained by centuries of loopholes. Experts still debate whether pilgrims lied in ink or truth. The draft whispers secrets. Shadows sway, not hanged men, but reeds in a moonlit marsh. Remember the camel who mistook your hat for lunch. It'd chuckle at your cursive, letters slanting like a sailor avoiding land. Stars here don't twinkle, they hiss, you write. Or maybe that's the wax singing its swan song. The page breathes, stains bloom into continents. A smudge becomes Lisbon, another, a half-closed eye. Your thumbprint seals the letter, a whirlpool of ink and Cairo dust. The wax cools, its crimson skin hardened to armor. Breath hangs suspended, a frost flower mid-bloom. True dawn arrives, a blade sheathed in coral light. The candle's wick drowns at last, a poet's quiet exit. Your final word blurs, ink dissolving into sunrise. Somewhere, wings rustle, debts linger. Questions melt like salt on the wind. That crescent stain on your palm, still pulsing, softer now, a lullaby in every heartbeat. Let it hum you toward horizons where even ravens sleep, where pilgrim bones become compass needles, where every unwritten letter is a shore waiting for tide. Rest now. The dark isn't hungry, just curious. Let it read your dreams, one whispered syllable at a time.